detect all these projections. So he built that, but he did that. Hello, everyone. Thanks for those joining us live online. We'll get started in just a minute. We're just doing some tests of the audio and video right now. So bear with us and we'll get started shortly. Ask Bianca. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Can I switch with you? Yeah, sure. I can honestly. Oh, yeah. Holding that up so that it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and then this she's I tried to convince her to come up.
So for everyone who is tuned in remotely, we're still getting set up here at the Smithsonian's Natural History Museum Library. So we'll get started with the event shortly. While you wait, go ahead and click on the Show More descriptive information on this YouTube live broadcast. We've got a little bit of information there that you can click on some links to get ready. One of the things that you're definitely going to want to have open is the Wikipedia event page. There is a link to that in the descriptive information of this YouTube live broadcast, so make sure you pull that up. And then we also in that description have a link to the slides that we will be using for today, so you can use those to follow along in case you're having trouble reading what's on the screen while we're broadcasting. So go ahead and have those open and we will get started shortly.
There's one of those that has a little fastener thing that I can Thank you. Oh, okay. Yeah.
What browser are you using? You're using Chrome? No, that should work. It needs to bring up a pop-up for you to accept the terms of service. So sometimes if you just click turn Wi-Fi off and click it up again, yeah. Yeah. We were having some troubles with Macs earlier today too, like with it not.
Maybe if I open Firefox, it will trigger it. I'll just keep trying because I know I got a Firefox. Cool.
If it's not bringing up the accept and connect for you, what you can do, is turn it off, turn it on again. Also, she was just able to get it to work using Firefox. So yeah. Once you click to accept, it should work no matter the browser. You just have to get it to bring that accept for you. Okay. It kind of gets blocked by the people having the good, so I figured we could try to move it over here. Like right here, so it can go that way.
I never trusted it, but it always worked.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That work? think that might be a little bit better. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's good. And I can just stand in front of it rather than having to turn it around to look at me while I talk. So Bianca's down getting more people?
Did you see this one? I'm on Safari Mac, not seeing links or events on Wikipedia.
So okay. Hello everyone, again, thanks for tuning in live. If you are viewing the live broadcast on Wikipedia, which of course you are if you're listening to me here, if you scroll down underneath the broadcast, there should be a button that says show more. If you expand that, it will show you the links and other descriptive information that we've been talking about. You can find a link to the Wikipedia event page, as well as the slides that we'll be using for today. I'll type it in as a comment as well.
They want to keep the ask to new networks.
Did you figure out the issue with the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, it seemed, you still weren't able to get on?
It said we were connected. I tried Safari, Firefox, Chrome. I'm just gonna log you into it. Okay, yeah.
Do you want me to do that first?
That would be great. Yep.
Hey, has anybody been successful in getting on Wi-Fi over here?
I'm on Wi-Fi, but I can't get into the check-in.
Yeah, to check it for on Wikipedia, like on the or to accept the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You can't accept.
I'm on the Wi-Fi, I'm getting it, but I went to,
No.
it's not letting me go back.
We're gonna go around and just use our credentials for the staff Wi-Fi.
Okay.
with you guys. So if you could pull up your Wi-Fi options, I'll go around and just put in my information.
Is anybody else having trouble connecting to the Wi-Fi over here? Everybody's on? Okay.
Oh, it's turned off, so catch 22, you can't do it.
So turn it on.
Well, then it's going to hook up to the internal. So, yeah, just.
Then you can turn it on. And then you can close this. And then click
I'm
that.
not sure about that. You need to put in your password to change that.
And then just go ahead and click on SI staff, and I'm gonna log you in to the staff network.
Are you guys on Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Erin, I'm Linda Parenti.
Hi.
Yeah, hi, nice to
Erin,
meet you.
nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Scan the screen.
Yes.
I'm still not reaching what I should reach. Yes. There, okay. Now, this is what I had up before, and then when it says sign in. Okay, then it looks like it's starting.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anybody else having Wi-Fi trouble? Get started?
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm gonna start. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today for our Wikipedia Editing Workshop for Women in Natural History. My name is Grace Costantino. I'm the Outreach and Communication Manager for the Biodiversity Heritage Library here at Smithsonian Libraries. And we're very pleased to welcome everyone here in person at the Natural History Library and also everyone who is tuning in remotely. So we are live broadcasting the workshop today via YouTube Live, and we had about 130 people registered to participate remotely as well. So we're really excited for that. I'd like to introduce a couple of the Smithsonian staff and Wikimedia DC staff that we have here producing the event. First, Ariel, if you'd like to come and introduce yourself for the group. We've got the camera set up here, so we'll be trying to stand in front of the camera for the streamers. And we also have a mic for the audio, so we may be moving that around a bit.
Okay. Looking here. Hi, my name is Ariel Citrone. I'm the Institutional Partnerships Manager for a nonprofit organization incorporated here in the district called Wikimedia DC. We are a grant-funded organization funded by the Wikimedia Foundation. So if you've ever given money online to Wikipedia when you've pulled up your favorite article or a new article, thank you very much for that donation. That money goes to fund programs like this and training opportunities to teach people to edit Wikipedia and hopefully feel empowered to do so on a regular basis. Thanks.
Thank you, Ariel. And Erin Rushing, come up and say hi.
Hi, I'm Erin Rushing. I'm the Outreach Librarian for Smithsonian Libraries. So I help facilitate things like this that help get our library materials out into the world. And we're very happy to welcome you here today. Great.
All right, so we're going to get started with some logistics things, and then after that, we'll sort of do some intros, and then we'll do some hands-on explaining on how to use the Wikipedia resources we're providing to you and how to do editing. So first and foremost, on the slide, you will see a link to the Wikipedia event page. If you don't already have that up, please go ahead and pull that up, and you'll want to have that available throughout the entire event. There's lots of information on there that we'll be referring to, including the suggested article work list that we're going to be using to provide some women's that we're suggesting to you that you could edit as part of the workshop. In-person participants, a couple of other logistics things. We've hopefully sorted the Wi-Fi, but if you have any trouble at any point throughout the event, just find either Erin or myself and we can help you with that. There are some printouts of the presentations on the tables as well if you want to refer to that throughout the workshop or look at some of the instructional materials. Bathrooms, if you leave this room and then turn right immediately down that hall, the bathrooms are right down there. And then last thing, you will of course have seen as you were brought up that the elevators out here are badge controlled. So don't wander away from the library and go down the elevators without talking to Erin or myself first. Otherwise, you won't be able to come back up to the room without a badge unless you're staff. Okay, for virtual participants, those tuning in live, there are 3 ways that you can ask questions or get support through the event. The first, as many of you have already used, is to use the chat feature on the YouTube live broadcast. We'll be monitoring that throughout the event and replying to the questions either through chat or through speaking in the broadcast. If you're on Twitter, you can use the hashtag #HerNaturalHistoryWiki to get some support. And for those in the room as well, if you're on Twitter and want to use that hashtag to ask some questions, we have also asked others in the Wikipedia community to be monitoring that to provide some support. And then last but not least, if you want to talk to somebody about a question that you have and you're tuning in virtually, we have set up a helpline that you can call into to talk to one of us here. So there's information on the slides that are provided to you, as well as on the Wikipedia broadcast description, on the YouTube live broadcast description. Okay. So this is the general outline for the event today. We're going to give a brief introduction to some of the resources that we're providing to you. We'll go over the suggested work list for the event and provide some suggestions for the types of edits that you could perform today. And then Ariel's going to take over with some hands-on training on how to actually do all of these Wikipedia editing activities. Just out of curiosity in the room, by show of hands, how many of you have edited Wikipedia before? Okay, so lots of first timers. That's great. Thanks for joining us. Okay, and then we'll end with a really brief introduction to how to use some basic features on one of the digital library resources that we're providing to you for the workshop as well. And then it'll be open time for editing. For those in the room, we are providing lunch. That's going to be delivered sometime around 11:30, so you can expect sometime between maybe 11:30 or noon. We'll have it available, and you can just get up and get your food whenever you want. Okay, so the workshop today is presented by the Smithsonian Libraries and the Biodiversity Heritage Library with support from Wikimedia DC. But we thought it might be useful to explain what the Biodiversity Heritage Library, or BHL, is, because many of the resources we're providing for you to use today can be found in this digital library. By show of hands in the room, how many of you have heard of the Biodiversity Heritage Library before? Oh, great. Okay. So pretty much everybody knows what it is, so we'll just go quickly here. For anybody who is viewing online who may not be familiar with BHL, this might be useful as well. But simply put, BHL is a completely free and open access digital library for biodiversity literature and archives. The free digital library portal can be accessed by going to biodiversitylibrary.org. From there, you can not only freely view online hundreds of thousands of volumes, but you can also freely download them in a variety of formats. And it's all free and open. You don't even need an account to access it. So many of the women that we're suggesting you work on today, they have content in our BHL digital library. We've provided links to that content that you can use to support the edits that you're going to be doing. And we'll explain that a little bit more in a moment. For anybody who may not be aware, BHL is actually not a single library. We are a single library portal, but we operate as a consortium of libraries around the world, over 80 institutions in total participating. It's kind of hard to see, but the map on the screen has little pink dots. Those are the locations of all of our partners around the world that contribute. Each one of those pink dots is digitizing their physical library collections and making those digital versions freely available in that single digital library portal through BHL. How is BHL related to Smithsonian Libraries? Well, Smithsonian Libraries is a founding member of BHL, and the Secretariat, which manages the day-to-day operations of BHL, is headquartered here at Smithsonian Libraries, as well as the servers that host the digital library are actually Smithsonian servers. And then, of course, just like all of our other partners, Smithsonian Libraries is digitizing their own collections for BHL as well. So you'll be able to find thousands of volumes from Smithsonian Libraries in the BHL portal too. Just a quick snapshot of what's in BHL: over 56 million pages, over 240,000 volumes. A majority of the collections are in the public domain. So by US copyright law, that's published prior to 1923. But about 25% of the collection is post-1923. We work with rights holders to secure permission to make in-copyright content freely available as well. So everything that you're going to find in BHL is either public domain or licensed under a Creative Commons license, so you can freely use it within Wikipedia as well. So at the end of the workshop instructional materials, we'll just give you a brief overview of how to use BHL so you can use the resources we're providing to you, but this is just a snapshot of what it looks like to look at a book in BHL. If you're on social media, we encourage you to follow us. Our handle across all the channels is BioDiv Library. But the one particular social media platform that's going to be relevant for today is our Flickr platform. So the natural history books in BHL have thousands and thousands of natural history illustrations. In order to make it easier for people to reuse those and find them, we've uploaded them to Flickr, over 133,000 images in Flickr to date. Many of the women on the work list for today were scientific illustrators, and we have their illustrations in our Flickr. So as you'll see in the suggested work list that I'm going to show you, we've given you links to their images in Flickr that you could use to, for instance, download and upload to Wiki Commons and add to their Wikipedia pages. So we'll show you how to do that. Finally, we are producing this event as part of a larger celebration that BHL and all of our partners are doing around women in natural history this month. It's called Her Natural History. It's social media focused on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So I encourage you to follow that hashtag to learn more about lots of wonderful women in natural history. In addition to Wikipedia events, we are also doing a transcription challenge with Smithsonian Institution Archives, and we have a representative from the archives here, Emily, who has been working with us to get this transcription challenge together. But you can transcribe field notes by female naturalists that have been digitized by SIA for BHL as part of this challenge. So if you go to the campaign webpage, s.si.edu/hernatural-history, you can find out more information about that challenge and all of the other activities we're doing for the campaign. So that's just a brief intro to BHL. Now we'll get into the meat of the workshop itself. But before I do that, are there any questions at this point from either anyone in the room, or we're also monitoring the chat for the YouTube stream?
There was one question about the slides, but a participant answered that for us.
Great. Okay. Yes.
You may want to answer this later. It's about searching images in Flickr.
Yep. I'll show you how to do that later.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. So earlier I had you open up the Wikipedia event page for the workshop today. If you could go ahead and open that up on your screens. We've also included the direct link to it on this slide and a way to search for it. If you have that open on your screen and then you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a section that is called Suggested Article Work List. So that's what we're going to want to be looking at for today. So I'm going to explain the aspects of this using screenshots, but follow along on your own computer to sort of see what I'm talking about and what I'm doing as we go through this. So what this list is it is a list of a little over 100 women that we are suggesting that you could work on their Wikipedia pages for this event. This is just a list of suggestions. If there are other women that you know of that you want to edit their pages for instead, that's perfectly fine. These are just suggestions. I do want to thank a couple of people whose research was the thing that made us be able to put this list together, especially Siobhan Leachman and Michelle Marshall. Much of the information we're providing in this work list was because of their research, and then also colleagues at the archives, New York Botanical Gardens, Sandra Barrios, and the BHL cataloging group. So thanks to them for helping us put this together. But I wanted to point out the different aspects of the things that you'll be able to find on the work list. So first of all, if you were to click on any of the women's actual names in that work list, that will take you to their Wikipedia page. Any of the names that are in red, those are women who do not yet have a Wikipedia page. So that's one of the things you could do at the event is create a Wikipedia page. And as I'm talking through all of this, if you don't know how to do it, don't worry, because Ariel is going to tell you how to do all of these edits. This is just to get you thinking of some of the things that you could do. For each of these women, if you look all the way over to the right, you'll see a text that says show. If you click on that, it will expand a box underneath that woman's name that has links to different resources that we're providing that you could use to support edits on Wikipedia pages for these women. So there are sort of three categories of resources that we're providing to you. The first, for almost all of these women, you'll see a link to BHL that starts biodiversitylibrary.org. That link will take you to a collection of that woman's either books that she authored, books that she illustrated in BHL that you could use for your editing. The second type of link you'll see there I mentioned earlier is a Flickr link, and those will take you to a collection of illustrations by that woman in the BHL Flickr that you could use to upload to Wiki Commons. And then lastly, for many of these women, we've included links to online resources that provide more biographical information about them and other resources about them that you can use to support your edits. So those are the components of the work list. Are there any questions about just the basics of what's available to you there at this point? Any questions online, Erin?
Yes, someone's having a little bit of trouble
synchronizing the slides and what you're saying. So you might want to, if you could explain again how it would work for those online who are watching and have the PDF of the slides.
Sure. So if you are looking at the suggested work list slide for today's event, you'll see that there is one of the slides that points out the different aspects of the work list, and there's call outs. So things to keep in mind, clicking on the name of the woman in the work list will take you to her Wikipedia page. If you see a name in red, that means she doesn't have a Wikipedia page yet, so you could create it. And then for any of these women, if you look all the way to the right of their name, there's a little text that says show. Clicking on show will expand a drop down underneath, and that's where you'll find all of the resources we're suggesting that you could use for your edits for these women.
And we did have, sorry, I'm sure there are questions in the room as well. This question you might be able to answer after you go through the rundown, which is about how to concentrate on Canadian women geologists and how to include photographs.
Yeah, so we'll be explaining how to upload images and including photographs to Wiki Commons later. Ariel is going to cover that. And let's talk offline about specifically finding Canadian women or something like that.
One more question before we go. Some of the women on the work list do not have SI links, only existing wiki links. Should we focus on those with more resources?
It's totally up to you. So if you're feeling ambitious and you want to do some extra research on your own beyond what we've provided, you're perfectly welcome to do that. If you just want to focus on those that have more resources and sort of skip the research part of it, that's perfectly fine as well. So it's totally up to you. Any other questions, especially in the room at this point? Okay. So before I hand things over to Ariel to actually explain how you can do these Wikipedia edits, we wanted to give some ideas of suggestions for some of the types of edits that you could perform. Again, these are just suggestions, and Ariel will tell you how to do all of these edits. These are just to get you thinking. For those who are tuning in online, I have moved forward to the slide that says in the header, suggested edits, and that's what we're going to be going through at this point. So first, one of the simpler types of edits that you could do, you could add images to the Wikipedia pages for these women. And as I've mentioned, we've made links in Flickr available so you can find many of those images. You could either just add them directly to the page, or especially for women who were illustrators themselves, one of the things you can do in Flickr is create a gallery. So you could upload lots of illustrations that they've created and create a gallery for them. Okay. Moving on to the second slide under suggested edits. Another thing that you could do is you could add a list of and links to publications that these women either authored or illustrated. And this is where the BHL links will come in handy, because that will give you a list of publications that they authored or contributed to that you could include in their Wikipedia page. For instance, you could create a selected bibliography section or include links under external links. Moving forward to the third slide under the suggested edits section, you could just enhance these articles with more biographical information. So you could use the resources that we've provided in the suggested work list. For those who are here in the room, we've also collected a lot of books that are reference materials that you can consult as well. Some of these are just general women in natural history books. Some of them have chapters specifically on women in the work list that we've provided. So feel free to consult those at any point for those in the room to do your edits.
Grace, I'm sorry, can I interrupt you for a second? We have had some requests to focus more on the slides with the camera. So I wonder if we can scoot this whole situation up a bit.
Okay.
Still not sure if that is really going to focus enough for folks to see. We have also suggested that you listen to the YouTube stream while you open the PDF slides and look through the PDF slides.
Yes, that'll probably be the easiest way for those tuning in online. Okay. The fourth type of edit that you could do, you could add citations to statements in Wikipedia pages that lack them. So if you see a statement made about a woman in one of these Wikipedia pages and it doesn't have a reference to back it up, if you can find a reference to support that using the resources in the work list or perhaps the reference books in the room, that would be a great thing to do as well. Also, most of these edits have focused on editing the Wikipedia pages specifically about these women, but another thing that you could do is you could edit related Wikipedia pages to include information about these women in those pages. So for instance, a lot of the publications that these women contributed to have their own Wikipedia pages. So you could include information about that woman in that publication's Wikipedia page. Another thing that you could do, so most of the images that we're providing to you in Flickr that were illustrated by these women are of species because they're biodiversity focused. So you could add those illustrations of that species to that species Wikipedia page to provide an image of the species, and then in the caption you could credit the woman who created the illustration, and that's another great way to get her resources included in more pages. Okay, and the sixth slide related to suggested edits, if you're following along through the live stream, is to create new articles for women who don't have them. So again, in the suggested work list, any woman whose name is red, that means she doesn't have a Wikipedia page. So it would be great if we could even just get a stub or a basic Wikipedia page started for her at this event. Okay, so I'm about to turn it over to Ariel to give the hands-on how to actually do the Wikipedia edits, but I wanted to see if there were any questions. Yes?
Should we have any concern about overlapping one another's work? I mean, I understand that Wikipedia is a group project.
I'll let
Can you,
Ariel.
The people online can only hear through the microphone, so you will probably need to repeat.
So the question is, should there be any concern about working on the same Wikipedia pages or overlapping work? And Ariel can answer that.
Yeah, so in regards to that, we will have a link on the event page, which I'll review during my portion of the presentation, where you can actually share your username and the title of the article that you're working on, and then you can let us know once you're done. Because if we have cross-editing or a conflict with two people editing the same article, whoever saves the article first, those will be the publishes that are made to Wikipedia. So we want to try to avoid that. But I will review how to share that information momentarily. Thanks.
Any other questions? Any questions online? And again, for anybody who's viewing online, if you had trouble seeing the slides or following along, we have provided links to those slides on the YouTube stream as well as on the Wikipedia event page. So you can pull those up and refer to those as you're going throughout the workshop. And for those, no. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Oh, sorry, yes.
Do you have a downloadable PDF of this slide presentation?
So the question is whether there's a downloadable version of the slide presentation. Yes, there is. If you go to the Wikipedia event page, that's the same page that the suggested article work list is. If you scroll up from the suggested article work list, there's a section called presentation, and there's a PDF of it there. And that's a great question for anybody online who has not yet been able to find that PDF. It's on the suggested, it's just above the suggested article work list. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Ariel now.
Thank you. Good morning once again. And I want to thank everyone for being here in person and remotely, and for having Wikimedia DC here in this wonderful space. I'm going to go over a couple intro slides about our organization, Wikimedia DC, Wikipedia in general, Wikimedia projects, a bit about the Wikimedia Foundation. And once we breeze through that quickly, we'll talk about some Wiki Glam, as we call them, gallery, library, archive, and museum projects that are a part of the Wikiverse at the moment, and then go right into how to edit Wikipedia. I do want to preface this with please prepare to have multiple tabs open today. If you do have the event page open, you may want to go ahead and bookmark it, just in case you close it by accident. You want to be able to access it quickly. I do know sometimes when you have multiple tabs open, it can be easy to close things by accident. So just please make sure to be aware that you will have multiple tabs open, and you do always want to have access to that event page. It's what I like to call our home base of operations for the day. So if you haven't done so already, I'm going to ask you to go to English Wikipedia. A shortcut to get to English Wikipedia, as opposed to the numerous other languages of Wikipedias, is to go to en.wikipedia.org. You can also go to wikipedia.org and click on English. And if you haven't done so already, please log in using your username. And if you haven't already created a username, you can go ahead and create an account. You will need to come up with a username, password, and so forth, similar to any other password or username-driven platform. But if you haven't done so already or created your username, you will have a moment to do so while I go through my next slide. So please take a moment again to go to en.wikipedia.org and either log in or create a username. And again, this is our home base or a shortcut to the Wiki event page. So if you do forget to perhaps bookmark the Wiki event page, if you ever want to get back to it quickly, if you go to Wikipedia and type this shortcut highlighted in yellow, you may want to jot it down either in your notebooks or just make a note of it. If you ever want to get back there quickly, this is how you would do it. You would type into the Wikipedia search bar WP:/WMDC-BHL. And this is a good time to mention that at Wikimedia DC, we do not remove these event pages. So if you start something today or you forget how to do something and you want to come back and take a look at the presentation, you're always welcome to access the presentation and the work list and the resources provided by the library here today at any time. We do not take these pages down. We're moving on to the next slide. Again, we reviewed the event page. And this is actually going to be our first edit today. Before we get into the meat of actually editing articles, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, and I'll explain why. The Wikimedia Foundation funds our organization, Wikimedia DC. Wikimedia DC is a local nonprofit incorporated in the District of Columbia, though we serve DC, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and Delaware with training opportunities such as editing workshops and Wikipedia edit-a-thons. We, as a grant-funded organization, need to track, we want to track how many people we're actually serving, but we also want to see the impact that we've made here today. And I can share it with the Biodiversity Heritage Library after the event. And the way that we're actually able to see the work we've done here today is asking you to sign in on the Wiki event page using your username. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through in the next few slides and show you how to sign in using your username on the event page. So again, as I said, we will be going back to that event page quite a bit today, but please pull it up once more. If you scroll down below the event description, you'll see a section that looks just like this that says, please sign in. And it's a two-step process. You can go ahead and click the blue sign in button. And I'll show you in a moment what the next page will look like. You'll see something that looks like this. Please do not type in the empty field. You do not need to type anything at all. All you need to do is scroll down and click the blue Publish Changes button. No, you don't.
Can you repeat that, Ariel?
Sure. So from the event page, if you scroll to the section, it's below the event description, titled Please Sign In. If you go ahead and click on the blue Sign In button, and on the next page, if you just scroll down to the bottom, there's no need to type anything, just go ahead and scroll down and click on the blue Publish Changes button. Yeah, well, I should mention this is Jim Hayes. For those of you who are in the room, he's one of our volunteers. He's going to come over and help you out. If you get a button that says, start editing, you should be able to cancel out of it. I don't want to spend too much time on this. So if you are at home or here in the room and you're having trouble signing in, we can always come back to this. This is just a way for us to track for our grant metrics and also for our impact today of what we will be adding and editing on Wikipedia. Okay, so Wikipedia, what is it exactly anyway? Wikipedia is a web-based free encyclopedia of openly editable content. one of the things we try to do at our events is really stress the fact that anyone can edit Wikipedia. This is not an exclusive club. This is not only for people in the know. This is something that we want you to engage with today and learn how to edit. So again, you feel empowered enough to do so either on your own time or here today. Wikipedia was co-founded by Jimmy Wales with the idea that knowledge should be accessible. It should not be only for people who have access to it, either at elite universities or in accessible locations. We want to make sure that everyone around the world has access to free knowledge. And that's what we're going to be doing here today, helping Wikipedia towards that goal. The use of Wikipedia is free. Editing is free as well. It's completely created by and edited by volunteers. Again, it's overseen by the Wikimedia Foundation. And when I say overseen, I should say that it's funded by the Wikimedia Foundation, that a lot of the projects and the tools are developed by staff at the Wikimedia Foundation. But the Wikimedia Foundation does not monitor edits or approve edits. That's done by the Wikipedia community. All edits that you make, either here or in the future, are recorded forever. You can always revert and go back if you make a typo, or you want to change something you've added, or revert something that someone else has done. But please remember, once you hit publish on Wikipedia, that edit is recorded forever, though you can always revert. At the moment, there are 5 million plus articles on Wikipedia in 270 plus languages, and 75,000 active editors per month, and 11,000 very active editors per month. Content on Wikipedia is freely licensed, so please keep that in mind when you do save something today. You are giving up permissions on that content. So if you feel ownership over something you're writing, please try to release that. One of the things we always try to tell people is, what can I do for the common good to share or encourage free access to the sum of all human knowledge. So if you're okay releasing what you've entered into Wikipedia today, please keep that in mind. All photos also will be either in the public domain or free of copyright, and we will review more later on about how to upload photos to Wiki Commons, which is where they must live prior to being uploaded onto Wikipedia. Yes.
I'm here representing an institution that has a lot of natural history images by women. Are you going to go through the specs that you recommend for uploading images so that people can't, for instance, download it and use it in a printed publication? But we do want those images out there.
Okay, so most of the images on Wikimedia Commons can be used for commercial purposes because you will be releasing the copyright.
Okay.
So that's one of the interesting things about Commons. There is a radio button once we upload the images where you can explain the copyright on that particular photo. And you can say, you know, please don't use without attributing it to XYZ collection. But we always tell people, please note that it is possible for people to still use those things. That's just the nature of Wikimedia Commons.
Would you
Yes.
mind just summarizing that?
Oh, I'm sorry. There was a question about uploading images to Wikimedia Commons and how to ensure that they are not, if they're in a particular collection, how they're not used for commercial purposes or in others' publications. And the answer, as I said to that, is images on Wiki Commons it is permitted to use those images in publications. You know, anyone can come along and download a photo and use it. That's part of the freely licensable content on Wikimedia Commons. Though you'll see, as we learn to upload images, there is a way to credit the collection that it came from, or the museum or library that it came from, and then address the copyright a little bit further. Okay, what is a wiki? A wiki is a website that anyone can edit at any time. And for those of you at home, I did move on to the next slide. The slide is titled Wikipedia Basics and Policies. A wiki is a website that anyone can edit at any time. The edits are meant to be quick. As I previously mentioned, it remembers all versions And it also hyperlinks between pages. We will be learning how to create hyperlinks, or those blue links that connect one Wikipedia to an article to another article. Now, I just moved on to the next slide for those of you participating remotely. These are the Wikipedia policies. Please review them carefully. These are what we ask you to consider as you are editing today. And on the event page, you'll see, if you don't have to look right now, but at a later time, all of these policies are fleshed out in more detail. There are links to the official full policies for all of these bullet points here that you'll see in this slide. But for now, we're going to review them briefly. But later on, either today or at a later time, you can review these policies in full. So when editing today, please try to maintain a neutral point of view. You also want to make sure that any articles that you're editing either today or at another time, that the subjects of those articles are notable enough to have a Wikipedia article. Now, the individuals on our work list today, they have been vetted, and we all can most likely agree that they are notable enough to have Wikipedia articles. But in the future, when starting from scratch and coming up with other people for your own personal work lists, keep in mind that you want to make sure that those people are notable. So how do we know that those people are notable or topics are notable? The good rule of thumb is you want to make sure that you can find verifiable sources about that topic. And what's a verifiable source? So first of all, we want to say you want to find at least 3 sources to use as your references while you're editing or adding content to an article. So 3 is a good rule of thumb. And you want to make sure, use your best judgment to make sure that those sources are things like verifiable or well-known newspapers, academic journals. Online materials are okay, especially government materials, library materials. Good old-fashioned books are great. You do not have to, when you're citing a source, you don't have to include a URL. You can cite an old-fashioned book. It's actually really great. One of the things is you can even put where the materials are located and potentially push people towards that library. That's an added benefit. But please keep that in mind. I always tell people to use your best judgment. One of the questions we get a lot is, can I use a blog as a reference? Is that a verifiable source? I always say consider the source. If, for example, the blog is the Washington Post or the Biodiversity Heritage Library, that's an acceptable source because of who created the content. But if it's just somebody who's interested in their family heritage and they're writing an article about someone in their family who was influential in American history, you may want to consider that as possibly not the best source. So at that point, you would do your best to find a source that maybe supports that information, but is a bit more verifiable. So you want to make sure for the next bullet point, moving on, that you're not doing any original research. You want to make sure that you are pointing to existing scholarship. It is possible to cite primary sources on Wikipedia, but we do ask that you try to stick to secondary sources or use primary sources in a more creative way, i.e. uploading photos or using record numbers and things like that. That would be fine. But try not to do any original research. We're not necessarily writing a research paper here. We're actually pointing to research that's already been done and vetted. Wikipedia, moving on to the next bullet point, Wikipedia is not a social media platform, but there is a way to communicate with other Wikipedia editors. If you make an edit, you may get a message saying thank you for your edit. You may get a message saying that your edit has been reverted. We always ask that when communicating with other editors that you try to assume good faith. And just know that it is the internet, but hopefully everyone will stay in good spirits and will not get intimidated. In my experience with Wikipedia, I've had very little issue with other editors. I think it depends on what you're editing, conflict-wise, and how your approach to working with other editors. But please, when communicating, just try to maintain a good attitude and assume good faith. Conflicts of interest. Now, I don't think much of this applies to us today because we are dealing with historical figures. But one of the things I do want to mention in the future when editing, I like to say, If you have a financial relationship with someone, you probably shouldn't create or edit an article about them. If you work for that person, if it's the organization where you currently are employed or were employed recently, you probably shouldn't edit the article. And again, these policies are fleshed out a bit with the links that are provided on the event page. But I always tell people, again, just use your best judgment. If you feel, you think that somebody could say, you know what, I think you have a conflict of interest and you shouldn't edit this article, you may want to avoid it. That said, when working for a nonprofit organization, a gallery, a library, archive, or a museum, or something in that vein, because those individuals tend to be the ones with access to collections and the most knowledge about collections, it is sometimes acceptable to edit articles about items in your collection or non-trivial things about your organization. So for example, if the director or executive director of a particular museum moved on and was replaced by another director, if you worked at that museum, it would probably be okay to log in and just change the name of the director on the article. Now, if your museum had a scandal, you probably shouldn't be the person to go in and edit that article. So just, again, use your best judgment on that. Yes.
Questions online.
Okay.
First of all, do we need to prioritize open access sources? Some things behind a paywall won't allow for additional verification for people without credentials to access them.
It's a good question. Okay, so the question was, do we need to prioritize use of open access sources when we're citing our edits today? The answer is no. If you do have access to something like JSTOR or something behind a paywall, it is okay to use those resources, even though others won't be able to quickly click on a URL to get those resources. Just make sure that you cite them as you would if they were available publicly. The idea is, unfortunately, some people may not be able to access them, but we do know that they're still out there, and that isn't a reason not to cite them.
And then last question, is there a wiki dashboard for this program?
So there is no wiki dashboard for this program. Instead of that, and I will explain, the dashboard is actually a place where people can log in, select an article work list, and it actually logs in real time the edits that we will be making today. In lieu of that, our organization, Wikimedia DC, we typically ask that you sign in on the event page and we capture your username that way, and then we will run the metrics of what was edited after the event. Sure. Okay, so moving on, we're going to discuss briefly the Wikipedia's gender gap. I know that we are, I'm running a little long, and we still need to get to how to edit Wikipedia. So Wikipedia's gender gap, especially that we're in Women's History Month and we're dealing primarily with a list of female identifying individuals on our list today, it's important that we review this. And not only that, Wikimedia DC, our nonprofit organization, we have a strategic plan, and one of the main items on our strategic plan is addressing Wikipedia's gender gap because it is unfortunately still rather wide. Only one out of every 10 Wikipedia editors identifies as female, so that's about 10% of all editors identify that way. That is a rather large gap, and it ultimately translates into the number of articles about women on English Wikipedia. So we have 10% of editors identify as women, and only 17.74% of English language biographies on Wikipedia are about women. So one of the great things about doing events like this is that we're able to potentially help to strengthen the articles that already exist and also create new articles about women who are not already represented on Wikipedia. I will say this number has started to inch up a bit. A few years ago, it was closer to 15%, so we are making some progress, but it is still good to note that we have a long way to go. So how can we fix this? One of the things, as I said, are through events like this, edit-a-thons, training opportunities. There is a project, if you're interested in learning more about it at a later time, called Women in Red. As we mentioned, red links on our work list, it means that the article does not yet exist. So it's a nice little pun there, Women in Red. And they compile lists of individuals who don't necessarily have articles who are in fact notable enough to have articles. So it's a good place to start. You can always use our list and find the red links there that we're using here today, but you can always go to Women in Red. And again, this is linked on the event page, and search by category. You can search by profession, by association, geography, really a number of things, and look for inspiration on articles to create about women. Another great way to combat this is partnerships with nonprofit organizations, government entities, libraries, colleges, and universities. One of the interesting things about especially working with nonprofit organizations is there was a study done a few years ago, is 75% of nonprofit employees identify as female, which I personally have a lot of experience in the nonprofit world, and I can attest to that, as I'm sure some of you can as well. So trying to engage with these, gatekeepers who have access to this knowledge and really an interest in it as well is a great way to try to help to close this gender gap. Now, we're going to switch gears a bit. We're going to start to prepare to actually edit. One of the things I need everyone to do is to set a particular preference that will allow us to use something called the visual editor. Now, it used to be on Wikipedia, in order to edit, you had to it was similar, it was called wiki source code, but it was similar to an HTML style code. Fortunately for us, there's a new cool tool called Visual Editor, which is a more what you see is what you get editing system. And that's how what we will be using to train here today. Now, in order for everyone to have access to it, we will need to set a particular preference. So for those of you here in the room and at home or participating remotely, please go ahead and either from your Wiki event page or open another tab that also has you in Wikipedia. I'm going to ask you to make sure that you're signed into Wikipedia. And I will advance to the next slide and show you right now how to set the preference to make sure that we all have access to Visual Editor. So if you are signed into Wikipedia, if you go to the top of the page, you should see your username, a couple other links, and you should see one about 4 over from the left called Preferences. I'll ask you to go ahead and click on that. I will review this 2 or 3 times. So if you missed it the first time, we will come back, don't worry. Okay, so if you were logged into Wikipedia, you should see something called Preferences at the top. It should be a few links over from where your username is listed. Go ahead and click on Preferences. And the next page will look something like this. The third tab from the left is called Editing. Please go ahead and click Editing. Now go ahead and scroll down about halfway on that page. You'll see another section called Editor. And in that section, I promise things actually do get easier from here. In that section, you'll see a drop-down menu called Editing Mode. Go ahead and open that drop-down menu. And scroll to the bottom of the menu and you'll see Show Me Both Editor tabs. Okay, if you select that, scroll down and hit Save. From this point on, we should all, when we edit, be able to have access to Visual Editor. And for those of you in the room, if you have trouble, you can raise your hand and Jim can come around and help you. For those of you also, again, in the room and participating remotely, I'm going to go back a couple slides and run through that once more. So to set your preferences to be able to view Visual Editor, you want to click on Preferences at the top of the page. Again, you can only view this if you're logged in. So make sure you are logged in with your Wikipedia username. So go ahead and click Preferences. On the next page that you'll get to, you can click Editing, which is the third tab from the left. On the following page, if you scroll down to the Editor section, go to Editing Mode, select Show Me Both Editor tabs, and select Save. All right, that will hopefully set us up for success today as we move forward in the editing process. All right, so we are moving on to the next slide titled User Page. This is where we're actually going to start to learn about the different sections on Wikipedia, starting with what does it mean to have a username? and how it helps us. And also, we will be going over the individual tabs and sections of each Wikipedia article, or sample, I should say, Wikipedia article. So when you create a Wikipedia username, you are assigned a user page. Now this is, you can access your user page at any time by clicking on your username. And it will bring you, if you haven't created one, it'll say create page when you click on it. I know some of you probably have clicked on it. It'll give you an option to create a page. I wouldn't recommend doing that now. You can go ahead and cancel out of that. But when you are ready to create a user page, you're more than welcome to share information about yourself. You do not have to share personal information. I do want to say that. You'll see here on the sample slide that my legal name is shared on the slide. It happens to be my username for professional purposes, but you do not have to share your real name. You can use this page to share your personal interests. You can say, I'm interested in female botanists in the 19th century. You can share that there. It's just a good place for people to come and learn something about you. And perhaps if they are interested in the same topic, they can reach out this way as well. Speaking of reaching out, there is a way for others to communicate with you. And right next to where you see on the top left your user page, you have another tab called your talk page. People can leave you messages here, other editors. If they want to thank you for an edit that you've made, or thank you for something that you've done, or ask you a question either about an article that you've done or a project that you're interested in, this is a way to communicate. Now, we will not be doing too much with this today. I just want to make you aware of the fact that these tools do exist, that you can, there is a possibility of sharing information about yourselves, but also communicating with others. Moving on to the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to have you do me a favor. This is where we're going to actually start to learn how to use some of the tabs and use on Wikipedia and start to learn how to edit Wikipedia. So go ahead and toggle back to our home base, to our Wiki event page, and go ahead and click on any blue link from the article work list. Please make sure that it is blue. We want to go and use a sample article that already does exist. Now, it's okay at this point if we're clicking on the same articles, because we won't be saving any of the edits or practice edits that we're about to make. But just go ahead and click on any blue link or any blue article. I'm using Maria Sibylla Marian as my sample here today to show you what some of these things in your chosen articles will look like. So every article on Wikipedia has a View History tab, and I've circled it here. Again, for those of you at home, we're on a slide called Article Tabs and Anatomy on View Article History. Yes? Okay, there's a question in the room. Okay, so you would just select any article from the article work list. So the article displayed now is just my sample article that I'm going to use, but what you need to do is just select an article from the article work list and use that article to follow along with the things that I'm going to show you. It could be the same article I've used or an article of your choice. So every Wikipedia article has a View History tab. If you ever want to quickly see other edits that have been made in the history of that article from the beginning of its creation until now, all you would need to do is click that View History tab. And remember how we said that all edits are remembered forever? It brings you to a page called Revision History. It'll show you the date of the edit, the editor's username, and edit summary. Now, when you make an edit on Wikipedia, it gives you the option to just write a brief note about what was done. We always ask you just to add something. You don't have to write a novel. Just, if you added a new citation or added biographical information, you can just write that. But please keep in mind that any edit that you make here today will be added to this log. Something else that's useful from this log, if you did want to revert back to an older version, all you would need to do is click on the date of the version you would like to revert to. And it will show you what the article looked like at that time. Then you would publish it. And then that will override the edits that came after it. Remember we spoke about each user does have a talk page, as does every article. So every article has a talk page. So people can discuss content of a particular article, ask questions of other editors. Some people like to communicate with other editors on talk pages for particular articles. I personally don't use them that much, but if you, for example, don't know if a particular fact is important enough to include, you can always say, you know, does anyone think that this article would be strengthened by adding X, Y, Z fact? Please let me know if you agree or disagree. You can always pose questions like that there. It's not necessary, but it's just a tool there for you to use if you would like to communicate with other people who are also interested in this particular article. Okay. So article tabs in anatomy, I did move on to the next slide for those of you participating remotely. We're going to review article tabs in anatomy and sections of Wikipedia articles. Each Wikipedia article or strong Wikipedia article should begin with what's called a lead paragraph or lead paragraphs. This is really where you make your case for that individual or topic's notability. So why is this person or place or thing important enough to have a Wikipedia article? You would really make your case there. You can say, you know, important contributions to a particular field. You don't have to include too much biographical information unless, of course, that is part of their notability, because you're going to expand on these details below. But this is really the place where you address why this person is notable. It's also a place for you if the person, if you know the birth date and death date, if that applies, you can put it here in the first section. But please keep in mind that you do not even necessarily have to cite your sources in the first lead paragraphs, though you will see some articles that do cite sources in the first paragraphs. It is not 100% necessary because all of this information will be shared again in the actual content of the article with citations. Yes, question in the room.
What's the C class referred to?
So I will review that in a bit, but briefly, all articles on Wikipedia are rated. And the question for those of you participating remotely was what, at the top of my sample article, it mentions that it's a C-class article. There is a rating system on Wikipedia for articles. I've included a link on the event page right above the work list about what those ratings actually mean. A C-class article is a pretty good article. But it goes all the way up to C, and then above that is B, and then there's GA, which is good article, and FA, which is featured article, which means that it was featured on Wikipedia's homepage. But if you do want to learn more about how Wikipedia articles are rated or what the rating system entails, there is a link to more about article assessment and grading above the work list, and a link above the work list on our event page. So we addressed lead paragraphs. Most Wikipedia articles have photos or info boxes that appear on the top right, as does this one. Okay, we moved on to the next section, article tabs in anatomy, sections, references for those of you participating remotely. So each Wikipedia article uses inline citations. It's very similar to writing a research paper. Okay. We will be learning how to insert our citations today, but we do use a basic inline citation. Okay, on to the next slide. Many Wikipedia articles have additional sections. So we do have our content where we add, biographical information, for example, and then it looks now. Yes, we have a question in the room. So it depends on the settings that you've set. Many of you won't see the article rating at the top. I just happen to have a feature turned on that shows me the article rating. Yeah. And if there was a question about, for those of you participating remotely, someone didn't see the article rating at the top of the sample article, you'll see that in my slide because I have a particular feature turned on. That allows me to see that, but that's not necessarily the case for those of you who don't have that feature turned on. And once we wrap up here today, if you'd like to learn how to turn that on, I'd be happy to share that in the comments on YouTube Live. So once you click edit, you'll get access to this really neat bar of formatting buttons. And you'll see I've highlighted them here, pointed to them here rather. And I like to say it's almost like a combination of Word and Gmail. Some of them will look very familiar, and we are very lucky to have these because prior to having Visual Editor, you did need to have some previous knowledge about how to code. But if you have basic knowledge of Word and Gmail or any other email platform, some of these should look familiar to you. And if they don't, they are quite simple to use, and we can learn how to use them right now. So imagine you're in an article. See if I don't want to navigate away from these slides too much, but go ahead and once you click the edit button, just place your cursor anywhere in the text and just practice adding a couple, either gibberish words or spaces. I want you to get the feel for just adding content. It's very simple, just like typing an email, typing in a document. Okay, so let's say you've added some content and you were ready to cite your source. Or one of the things that Grace discussed when we began is that sometimes you might see content that isn't sourced that you would like to add a citation for. Okay, so let's say you're ready to add a citation regardless of the circumstances. All you would need to do is place your cursor where you would like to add the citation. Click the Cite button, which you'll see in that bar of formatting buttons above. And you'll get a pop-up menu. And within that pop-up menu, you'll see 3 tabs. One is Automatic, one is called Manual, and one is called Reuse. So Manual gives you the most flexibility. And all you need to do is select in the pop-up menu what you will be citing, either a website, a news article, a book, a journal. And if it's something that is not within this list, you can select Basic Form and customize your citation. For Automatic, which can be quite useful, you actually have the opportunity to just include an ISBN, a URL, or something like that. If you just paste it in there, it will generate the citation for you. URLs, using Automatic to insert URLs doesn't always work. It depends on the source. If you're, for example, citing the Washington Post, it typically always works. But if you're citing an older source, it may not always work. So it might take some practice with that. But just know that Manual gives you the most flexibility. So if you click on Manual, for example, and then you click on Book, all you need to do is fill out the required fields. Once you're done with that, you click Insert. You click Insert, and your citation will generate automatically at the bottom of the article. Okay. And as far as reuse, if you notice that there's a source already cited in your article and you would like to cite it again, either something you added earlier in the day or something that was already cited, if you click Reuse, you'll get a list of all of the citations that are already used in that article. Find the one you want to cite again, click it, and click Insert, and it will appear. Again, this is one of the great features of Visual Editor. You don't have to worry about formatting or remembering MLA and all of those things. Just go ahead and place your cursor where you want the citation to go, click Cite, and either select Automatic to insert a URL or ISBN, Manual to have a little more flexibility of what the source that you're citing, or Reuse to reuse an older citation. Moving on to the next slide. Yes, question.
So if you have a book, you don't have to put the page number?
One of the questions was if a book is being cited, should we put the page number? Now, I always tell people whatever you think would help people the most as they're doing their research. So I would recommend it if you know it. When you open the citation feature and you click Manual and you start to enter the citation information for your reference for the material that you've added, you want to make sure that, of course, you fill out everything that has an asterisk next to it. But I always tell people, many people that come to Wikipedia are using the references to start their research. So if you can include as much information as you know in those fields, even if those fields aren't required, that's a great way to go. Thank you. And this is a good point to mention. Even people that have been involved with Wikipedia or Wikimedia projects for years, we will say Wikipedia is not the end-all be-all. We wanted to really be the door that people walk through to learn more about a subject. So including really strong references or links to those references that will allow people to get to the really important information. That's really a great thing to do because they will learn about a topic on Wikipedia, but we want them to go further, especially if we're dealing with students who are learning about a particular topic. We don't want them to cite Wikipedia, but we want them to learn about the topic and then use those references for a deeper dive. And there's a question. Yes.
I chose Catherine Johnson
Mhm.
for this, and underneath the editing tools,
Mm-hmm.
there are blue dots that are
Mhm.
pulsing. I
Hmm.
assume that means that there's one is under site and one is under link, but there are none of those and they're needed. Is that correct?
Let me ask Jim.
No,
It's just a
saying,
pop-up greeting message.
saying, Here I am.
You click on it one time.
Come click.
Okay, I've never actually seen that. There was a question in the room. There were some blue dots appearing under the formatting bar. Personally, I've never seen those, but apparently it's a greeting. Okay, so we will be moving on to how to add sections into a Wikipedia article. So I'm sure if you visited Wikipedia, many articles, as I mentioned, or all articles begin with the lead paragraph and then goes on to early life or life and career. If there's a controversy, there'll be a section on that. It's really up to you as far as what you want to include. We always recommend going to a really strong article and then seeing the things that they've included as far as what their section headings are. But if you are ready to include a new section or you notice that there is a section is missing and you would like to start a new one, this is how you would do it. So again, just like you added your citation, just go ahead and click anywhere in the text where you would like to add a new section or practice adding a new section and hit enter or return, and it'll bring you to the section below a paragraph. Okay, and we're going to scroll up again to our trusty formatting bar, and if you click paragraph and heading, it'll insert a new section heading, and you can name that heading whatever you would like. Once you name that heading, if you click enter, it'll bring you below where you've created that heading, and you can start typing your new content. So again, if you want to include a new heading in an article or a new section, I should say, in the article, you would place your cursor where you want the section to go to paragraph, heading, name your heading, hit enter or return, and start typing your new content. Again, one of the great and easy, hopefully easy to use features of Visual Editor. Now, one of the things I do want to recommend before starting a new section, make sure that the content you would like to add wouldn't already belong in an existing section, especially in some of the more, the longer, more established articles or higher rated articles. You may already have a section where that content belongs, but if you really truly believe that there is a section missing and you would like to add a section, feel free to do so. Okay. Adding hyperlinks in an article. So we mentioned that a characteristic of a wiki, and for those of you participating remotely, I did move to the next slide titled Adding Hyperlinks. In order to add that link, you would, to another Wikipedia article, all you would need to do is select the text where the link would appear. So I've used as my sample silkworms. Select that and go up to the trusty formatting bar and select the link button. And before you click on anything, you will get a list of all of the articles called silkworm or related to silkworms. So all you would need to do is find the article you would like to link to, select it, and click done, and your hyperlink is created. Now, one of the questions we get a lot, and one of the things to be clear on, is how many times do I link to that particular search term? If silkworms appears 20 times in an article, how many times do I link to it or create a hyperlink to it? Only the first time is the answer. So you only need to create one hyperlink the first time that search term appears. Okay, there's no need to have to go through the entire article to do it. Another question that we typically get is, can I only hyperlink to existing Wikipedia articles, or can I hyperlink to things outside of Wikipedia? The answer is please only hyperlink to things within Wikipedia. okay, in the content of the article. There is a way in another section to hyperlink to materials that will help people in their research later on. But for hyperlinking an actual content of an article, you want to only link to things that to other Wikipedia articles. Okay, next slide. Adding images. There was a question about adding images. This is where we will learn how to do that. And there is another section where we'll actually learn how to get those images into Wiki Commons. But for now, I'm going to teach you how to upload images that are into Wikipedia that already live in Wikipedia Commons. So Wikimedia Commons is a photo repository of all the images that are featured on Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects. So any photos that come up when we do what I'm about to show you how to do already live in Wikimedia Commons. So that's important to remember. So let's say you want to insert a photo and you notice that there was a section on her work, and within that section there was another section about botanical art, but you noticed there was a photo missing and you think the article would be strengthened by adding a photo of her work. Of course, a copyright-free or within the public domain photo of her work. All you would need to do is either place your cursor to the left of the text or the right of the text. Most photos do appear on the right from what I've seen. So go ahead and just place, the right side of any text, and you will click Insert and Media. And any photos tagged under her name that live on Wiki Commons will appear in a menu that looks like this. Okay, there's no need to type anything. It should automatically pull in anything that has been tagged on Wikimedia under her name. Now, if you did want to try to find something that wasn't tagged under her name, all you would do is go up to where her name is listed near the magnifying glass and type something else. Okay, and if you find a photo you like, go ahead and click on it. Again, you can do that. We're not going to publish any of the changes that we're using while we're practicing, so you can just select any photo if you'd like to practice. Go ahead and select it. And you'll be brought to another page that says Insert Image, or Use this image, rather. And it'll walk you through the process. You can add a photo caption. You can add where the photo is located. You can add a number of different things. One of the things we do ask you, when you do add images, we'll see something called alternative text. That's what's for people who are visually impaired. That's what their readers will explain to them about the photo or describe to them about the photo. So you may want to consider using that for accessibility purposes, of course. It's not required, but we do encourage it. So you will caption the photo, but then briefly also describe what it is. Okay, and after you click Insert, the photo will appear on the Wikipedia article, either on the right side, if you placed your cursor on the right side, or the left side. Okay.
Pardon?
Yes, question?
Yeah, is the source for those images, is it primarily searching Wiki Commons?
It's only searching Wiki Commons, yes.
They're already uploaded. If you want to upload, that's the upload.
Yes, so we...
Will give you a Wikimedia Commons entry.
Yes. So the question in the room was, do images, the images that are coming up at the menu, do they have to be on Wiki? Are they coming from Wiki Commons? Yes. All images that appear when you do the Insert Media function are only on Wiki Commons. And we will be learning in a moment how to actually upload photos to Wiki Commons. But all photos, just know when you do insert them onto Wikipedia, they are already in Commons. So let's say you have a photo that has no copyright or is in the public domain and you would like to add it, you would need to put it into Wiki Commons. And we will review that in a couple slides from now. A couple quick tips for those of you at home. Oh, I forgot to mention, please do not forget to publish changes. This button used to be called Save Changes. It is now called Publish Changes. Publish Changes makes your edits go live immediately. But please, if you are editing, especially if you're spending a lot of time doing something, try to save every few minutes or when you're ready. You don't want to lose anything as you're editing because you cannot get it back if perhaps there is some cross-editing going on, someone editing the same article as you. I will review how we're going to try to avoid that happening today, though it will still happen, but please save often or publish often. Question?
Do you want us
if you feel that you are ready to publish, you're more than welcome to publish. Yes.
So, but we're going to be able to revert if these
Well,
weird changes.
right. The ones that we're doing right now, I can show you. We're going to ditch the changes that we've made so far. But right now, do not publish. It's a very good question. The question was, do we publish right now? No, please do not publish. This is for when you're ready to publish the work that you've done later today. Do not publish at this point. One of the things I will mention, in order to ditch very quickly the changes that we've made or the potential vandalism that we've made, go ahead and click on the read button at the top of the article. And it should, the read button, it's next to the edit button. So it's right at the top. If you look at any article, if you look at the screen, yeah. So if you can also look at my screen for a sample. You'll see read, edit, source, view history. If you click on read, if you ever want to ditch your changes very quickly, go ahead and click read, and it'll say you are abandoning your changes. Is that okay? And of course, you would click yes in this case. So please go ahead and do that now. Okay. Moving on to the next slide. A couple quick tips before we there's a couple other things after this, but a couple quick tips. Good idea is always to look through other hyperlinked articles for relevant information. Copy and paste is acceptable between Wikipedia articles. So if you find content that you like in one article that applies to your article, you can copy and paste it. But please note that when you save, it's going to ask you for an edit summary. We do ask that you credit the original editor or the article where that content was copied from. Of course, it's also a good way to find new sources, to just explore maybe some other things on our work list. So creating new articles. And this, I think we did a quick popcorn poll at the beginning of the session for people in the room, and it seemed about 80% of the people in this room had never edited Wikipedia before. And this is an important time to mention that new editors are restricted most of the time from creating new articles until they have 4 days and 10 edits under their belts. That said, there are a few ways that we can handle this today. I have user rights, user creation rights, and certain event organizer rights that allow me to turn that restriction off. But another thing, because we are new editors, another method for this is creating a draft article. Getting some practice under your belt, because you can create draft articles and then later rename them so they go into what's called Wikipedia main space, which is regular Wikipedia, so that's viewable to everyone. So how would you start a draft article? So let's say you notice there's a red link on our work list and you would like to start a draft of that article, get it to where you would like it to be, and then potentially publish that article. What you would need to do is search on Wikipedia. Again, the Wikipedia search bar typically appears at the top right of any Wikipedia page. You would name your article, draft, colon, and of course your article title. So if you just go to any Wikipedia article, if you look right there on the event page or in any other, if you open any other Wikipedia tab at the top right in the search bar, you should see a search bar there on Wikipedia. Yep. Sure. And type draft and then colon and whatever article you would like to create. And once you click enter, you'll get a message that say, this article does not exist. Would you like to create it? And it'll show you a red link. And you will go ahead and click that red link. And it will bring you to a page that says create page. Here. Or create this page. So you would go ahead and do that and just start writing the article. Okay, so that's one way to start a draft article. Again, this is something that we can come around. Jim, myself, and also Andrew Lee just joined us. He's also on our board and he can help you. If you would like to start a draft article today, I do recommend it, especially if you're a new editor. It's a great way to get started and really craft the article the way you would like it to look before publishing it or rename it to go into what we call Wikipedia main space or in main Wikipedia. I will say when creating the article, it does not have to be totally complete. It can be, wind up being a stub article, which just means that it's a short article. If you want to create a couple sentences about a person in the lead paragraph and then do some content and include some really great references and publish your article, that's fine too. It does not have to be complete because other editors can pick up the ball and run with it as well. But again, if you would like to start a draft article, just go to the search bar, draft : name your article, and then hit enter. And then it'll say, would you like to create this article? You will click on the red link and start the article. One quick tip I will say, the first thing I always like to do when creating a new draft or article is to create, remember how we learned how to create headings? Create a references section. Because it will remind you, of course, to cite all your sources. But in my experience, sometimes your references won't show up at the bottom of the article unless you create that reference section first. So the first thing I always like to do in an article is create a references section. Okay. So let's say you've created a draft, whether it's a quick stub or short article, and you would like to publish it. Well, so what do? So you would, of course, publish it as a draft. You would click that blue publish button that we talked about. But let's say you want to move it from draft form to final or somewhat final form, or at least get it into Wikipedia main space. At the top of the article, you'll see something called more. Okay, so again, we have our read, edit source, view history. At the top of your draft article, you'll see something called more. If you click on that, it'll open a drop-down menu called move, or a drop-down menu that lists something called move. Of course, some of you may not see this right now in whatever sample you're using, but just know that it does exist. And again, we can help you walk you through this if you do want to publish a draft to main space today. But when you are ready to move a draft from draft form to main space, you would just go to the draft article, go to more, move. And I should say move is just another name for rename. So you're renaming the article. You would remove the draft : text. Okay, so I should say you would click more, move, and in the next section, it'll say, what would you like to do? So you would select article, which means you're moving it to be a main space article. And then you would rename it by removing draft and :. And once you hit publish or move page on that menu, your article will go into main space. Again, this is a little more involved than some of the things that we've already discussed, but you're always welcome to ask questions, either if you're participating remotely in the live chat or to the volunteers and staff in the room. We can help you, if you create a draft today, we can help you move it into main space. One of the other ways to start new articles is to use the Wikipedia article wizard. Now for beginners, this might be a good way to go. All you need to do to get to the article wizard is in a Wikipedia search bar, just type the following in red as it appears. And for those of you at home, we did move on to the next article titled Start a Draft Article with Article Wizard. You will go into the search bar, type Wikipedia : article wizard, and it will walk you through the process of starting a draft article. Okay, so it's a bit more of a straightforward way to do it, but there are two ways to do it. Okay, now let's say you were an experienced editor and you didn't feel the need for starting a draft article. You just wanted to create a quick stub or short article and you were ready to go. All you would need to do, just like we typed it to our Wikipedia search bar before when creating our draft, all you would need to do is go to that search bar again, type in the name of your article without draft : just name of the article as you would like it to appear. Click enter. It'll say on the next page, would you like to create this page? You would click on the red link and say yes, and start typing. Okay, and of course, once the article is ready to publish, you will go ahead and do that. Again, as a tip, I always like to start the first thing before I even add any content is to add a heading for references. All right, another interesting tool, again, for those of you at home, I moved on to the next slide, titled Start a Draft Article. Oh, I just found a typo. So practice using your sandbox, rather. A sandbox is a place for you to practice. Every user is assigned a sandbox, and you can always get to it by, if you go right up to the top of any Wikipedia page, you'll see your username, and then over from that, you'll see something called sandbox. It's really just a place to add content, practice formatting. You can create a full article here and then move that from your sandbox to main space. I don't typically do it that way. I like to create a draft article somewhere else, but it is possible. But just know that that's a place where you can type around or mess around or see what formatting certain sections will look like. It's just a place where if you click edit, you can just start typing in there to see, to practice. Okay. Yes, question?
Is this what you do if you are working in your sandbox and you want to move it? What is the best way to expand a stub article?
Okay, so if you are working in your sandbox, you can move your sandbox into main space and create what's in your sandbox with move that into a new article. Again, it's the same method as you would do if moving a draft article to a main space article. If you look on my sample slide, you'll see at the top of the sandbox, you'll see read, edit source, view history, and that trusty more button again. If you click more, you can select that and then click move from there. And then from the drop-down menu in the following page, you select article and then rename your sandbox. Some people like to create articles in their sandbox and then move their sandbox or rename their sandbox as the article and then create another sandbox. Because of that last extra step I just mentioned, I don't typically like to do that. I do like to create a draft article first and then just move the draft to a main space article. It is a little more difficult to actually create it in your sandbox and then move that into a main space article. And I'm sorry, what was the half of that question?
What is the best way to expand a stub?
Okay, the question was, what was the best way to expand a stub article? So of course, adding additional content, citing additional sources, adding new sections, adding photos. Some of the suggested, I would recommend going back in the slides at some point and looking at some of the suggested edits that Grace and her team put together. That's really a great way to do it. Really, you want to make sure that it's well-cited information about that particular person. And article quality is typically ranked, is somewhat ranked on length of the article. So of course, a stub article means a short article. So the more you add content-wise and citation-wise, the better, the higher the article will be ranked.
Follow up on that. What is the appropriate time to remove? It seems somewhat subjective. So you said, at least 3, perhaps different sources, but this is one of the characteristics of some of these short articles and stubs is that stubs is somewhat demeaning, right? It's not a huge article. And I've seen stub apply to several paragraph articles as they expand. When do you get to remove the stub?
The question was, when do you get to remove the stub label? Okay, so it will happen automatically. So as you expand an article, it's constantly being reassessed using that quality assessment system. That again, if you want to learn more about how articles are ranked, there is a link to the rating system right above our article work list on our Wiki event page. But it will update automatically. So a couple other things to review, and then I promise we will jump into actually editing, and lunch should be here shortly. So tips and other ways to edit. For those of you who are at home, we did move on to the next section. Again, tips and other ways to edit. Adding categories. So at the bottom of most Wikipedia articles, there are categories, and you can add categories to individual articles. Now, if for whatever reason you were unable to see the categories at the bottom of the articles, we can address this later. Our volunteers can help you. Sometimes there's a certain feature that does need to be put on, or turned on rather. But one of the things about categories is if you go to the bottom, you'll see at the end of the category list an addition symbol or plus sign. If you click on that, you can type the name of a category, click OK, and it'll add the category to the bottom of your article. Basically, what that does is it pulls the article you're currently working on into a list of other articles that also fall within that category or theme. The tricky thing about categories is you need to know the exact name for, I just noticed that, I apologize for the category. The category that's shared on the screen right now. I will have to override that, but that was from another event. So all you would need to do is select the category, the plus sign, and then know the name of the category you would like to add the current article to. That's one of the tricky things about categories is you have to know exactly how that category is titled before adding it to the bottom of an article you're working on. Okay, so one of the things I always recommend is try to find somebody who also falls into that category and see exactly how the category is named, and then enter the category at the bottom of the page to the right. It's not the most, it's not the best feature. It's useful for some people, but it's a little clunky in my opinion. But just know that if you are adding a category to the bottom of a page, you do need to know exactly how it's titled before adding it. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, so what you need to do is just click on the read. If you're on an article, if you click on read, it'll just take you quickly out of editing mode. Okay. Right. So I'd mentioned there might be, for some of you, and there may be a feature that needs to be turned on that will allow you to see the categories, and Jim can actually come around and help you turn that on. For some reason, it's called Hotcat. For some reason, some people see categories and some people don't when trying to add them. Not quite sure why, but we can fix it by turning on a particular feature. Okay, so moving on, for those of you at home, we're talking about article redirects. So what is an article redirect? So let's say there's an individual their article is titled one way, but they're also known by an alias. So this is particularly important when dealing with women who may, especially, 18th, 19th century women who may be listed under their married name, but went under a professional name, and someone created the article under their married name, for example, or could potentially have three different possible names. We want to make sure that anyone who looks for a particular person is getting to the correct article and is not being told that an article doesn't exist, especially when it does exist. So this is, again, a bit more difficult than some of the things we've already done. So, and I do know that this may not be something that you get right now, right here at this time, but just know that these slides will stay live, and the live chat on YouTube Live is going to remain open as far as I know. So please share any questions there, but we will quickly run through how to do this. And again, we don't expect you to get this the first time because it is a little more difficult, but just know that it is a possibility, and this is how it is done. So the first thing I always recommend you doing, starting with step one, is identifying your target article. So where would you like people to be directed if searching for a particular individual by an alias? So Juliette Gordon Lowe, for example, she has an article titled just that, Juliette Gordon Lowe. But let's say people searched for her under her maiden name, Juliette Gordon. At this point in time, if they did, they would be told that an article didn't exist, when we know that it does exist. So we would create a redirect. So the first thing you would do, again, is identify your target article. And the next thing would be to create an article called Juliette Gordon. Okay. So this is the first time I'm going to deviate a bit from the presentation just to open a tab, and I'm going to do this for you. For those of you at home, I know that this is going to be a little harder to see. Hopefully I can't see anything there. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead again and find my target article. Okay, so here she is. So I do know that this article does exist, but I want anyone looking for her under Juliette Gordon to get to this article as well. So right now, this is what happens when you do that. So right off the bat, I'm told, of course, this shows up here, but let's ignore that for the moment. Right now, I'm told that there's no article that exists called Juliette Gordon. Okay. So again, like we created our draft, we go ahead and click on that red link, and it'll give us the option. So again, just like remember we discussed edit and edit source, you'll see sometimes create and create source. Create will get us to the visual editor, and create source will get us to the source editor. But for now, let's stick with our good old trusty visual editor. And I went ahead and clicked create. And if you scroll over to the right side of the page, you'll see 3 lines next to the pencil icon. So I'm going to click on that. Again, this is something that's a little more complicated than some of the other editing lessons that we've done. But you would go ahead and create an article named the same as the alias. Click on the 3 lines, scroll down, and go to page settings. And right away, you'll see a radio button titled redirect this page to. You would click that. And where would you like this page to take people? So, sorry guys, I don't have my glasses. Juliette, okay. Sorry, Juliette, I already forgot your name. All right, I'm going to go ahead and spell it right? Okay, so as you type, it'll actually, the article that already exists will start to come up in a drop-down menu. So I click on it, and once I hit Apply Changes, it's now creating a bridge between the article that I created and the one that already exists. Okay, so once I click Publish Page, it will create the redirect. Again, it will ask me what I've done. Okay, click Publish. Okay, now watch what happens now. Remember before we searched for her under Juliet Gordon and it said that the article didn't exist? Now when I search for Juliet Gordon, I'm automatically brought to Juliet Gordon Low. Okay, so what we're doing again is creating a bridge from a page named the alias to the actual article under her full name. All right, again, this is a bit more complicated than some of the things that we've done. If this is something that you'd like to do as a personal, project, either today or at another time, we can walk you through it individually. The steps are a bit more complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it is a good job done, especially when dealing with 18th and 19th century women. Okay, where is it? All right, and I promise we are coming to the end here. How to edit Wikipedia. And again, I do want to mention this is not all learned in one day. What we do hope for today is though that you get a chance to click around and make some edits that were on the suggested edit list. But practice does, I don't want to say perfect, but practice will help you. It'll really start to feel easier as you go. So there was a question about Wiki Commons. How do I upload photos to Wiki Commons? So let's just go ahead and open another tab or in the tab that you're already in. Wikimedia Commons is a project of Wikimedia, just like Wikipedia, Wikidata, Wikimedia Commons. But we do need to actually, it's another website. So if you go to commons.wikimedia.org or just Google Wikimedia Commons, the first result will be where we need to go. So commons.wikimedia.org. And again, you can always just Google Wikimedia Commons. So again, let's say you're working on an article and you notice that you would like to include a photo. You try to insert a photo using the Insert Media feature and you realize the photo doesn't exist on Commons. But you say, wait a second, I know the Biodiversity Heritage Library has a photo that's free of copyright that I can upload to Commons so that it is available at a later time, or actually immediately. So you would go ahead and go find the photo. You would download it to your device, computer or otherwise. Okay. So now we have a photo. Everyone should have Commons open. Now let's say you have a photo that you'd like to upload. So on the home page of Commons, you'll see a trusty blue upload button on the top right. Again, this is one of those things where the buttons should actually look somewhat familiar. You would click Upload. It'll then say Select Media Files to Share. Once you click that, it'll open your either Documents folder or Photos folder from your laptop. You would actually upload the photo. And most importantly, it'll ask you to select one of two radio buttons. Again, it'll walk you through the process, much like the article wizard, but it'll say, is this file your own work? And of course, if you say yes, you can release the copyright. It's very simple and you move on. But keep in mind, you are releasing the copyright here, so other people will be able to use your photo as they'd like. If the photo is not your own work, you will go ahead and select this photo is not my work. So of course, historical images, a lot of the photos or images we'll be using today. And I should say PDFs are acceptable as well on Commons. There is also a way to upload video and audio files as well. We will not be addressing that today, but for this purpose of this demo, we'll be dealing with images. So let's say the photo is not your own work. You would select that, and then it will ask you a series of questions about copyright. I'm not a copyright expert. If you are here today or you're participating remotely and you would like to know what photos are acceptable for uploading, photos that have been shared here today as part of the article work list or within the drop-down menus that exist below each article in our work list, please share those questions either in the room or in live chat. But the article or the upload wizard will actually walk you through asking you questions about the copyright. It will ask you if you want to how you want to title the photo, how you want to caption the photo, how you want to describe the photo. Please keep in mind the title is how people will look for your photo. So try to make it as literal as possible. And then the description, you can be a little more flowery. But for the title, please be literal. If you know the date when the photo was taken or made, you can go ahead and include that with historical images. We don't always know that, but try if you know. You can also put where the photo is or the image is located or the collection where it lives. And I know there was a question before about how do you stop people from using images that are uploaded from a particular collection. In Commons, we want to make sure that most of the photos included are things that people can use in any way they'd like, things that are already publicly accessible elsewhere. So if you wanted to include in any of the relevant or appropriate fields where that actual photo resides or image resides, you can go ahead and put the collection where it is. So one more thing I want to point out, because I am about to wrap up. And I know that's a lot of information, but I'm going to go back to our event page and show you a couple things. So go ahead and take a moment to pull up the event page, either in the room or at home. And there was a question at the very beginning about how, go ahead and refresh this page, how we will make sure that we're not editing the same articles at the same time. So if you scroll down, right above the article work list, you'll see a section called coordination. Again, we're on the event page. And it says, please use this Etherpad link below to share what you are currently editing. If you click on that blue link, it'll bring you to a shared doc. Okay, and I've included a sample here. All you would do is just type in there, share your username, what you're currently editing, and let us know when you're done. So try to view this prior to starting an article or editing an article, just to make sure someone's not currently working on it. If they are not currently working on it, just please go ahead and add your username and the article that you're working on. It's not perfect, but hopefully it'll stop us from cross-editing. Okay. Let me just make sure there's nothing that I'm missing here. Okay. All right, thank you. And for those of you that did sign in at the very beginning of my talk here, we discussed signing in to let us know that you are participating. Most of you have, it looks like it, but if you have not signed in on the event page, again, all you would need to do on the event page is go to the sign in section and follow the prompts. This PDF of this presentation will live on this event page. I do not remove them, so you're always welcome to come back and download a PDF of the entire presentation afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over. I know that was a lot of information, but hopefully we'll be able to get started with some edits today. Thanks.
Thanks, Ariel. Okay, so I'm just going to show you just a handful of really quick things on the Biodiversity Heritage Library that will help you be able to use the resources that we've provided there for the edits that you're doing. So for those who are tuning in at home, I do realize that it has been a little bit difficult to follow along on the slides as we've been doing this. So I apologize, but you could always refer back to those slides after the event. But for those that are watching the live stream, I'm actually just going to start on slide 78. I'm going to focus on showing you just a couple of things that are specifically related to the edits that you might want to do from the work list. So as we talked about earlier, the suggested article work list that we've provided to you, many of the resources that are included for those women are content in BHL that those women contributed to or illustrated by, and those links are provided in the work list. So if you were to click on any of those BHL links, you would be taken to view the book in BHL. And what I have on the screen is what you would see for those on the live stream. What you see on slide 78 is what you would see. So I just want to show you really quickly how you can navigate through the book. So there's the up and down arrows. You can zoom in using the zoom in buttons up at the top. You can also view the book in a couple of ways: single page, double page, or thumbnails. If you want to quickly scroll through the book, going to the thumbnail view is a nice way to be able to quickly go through it. And then the Pages tab that you see all the way over on the left, That's a nice way if you knew that you wanted to go to a particular page or plate or something like that. That's a nice way to quickly scroll through it. So one of the things that we have provided a lot of, and you might be wanting to use for your Wikipedia edits, are illustrations by many of these women who are scientific illustrators. So I want to show you really quickly how you can download images from BHL if you want to use them in Wikimedia Commons. The quickest and easiest way is just to have the image on your screen, right-click, and save image as. That's the quickest and fastest way to just save it. Many of these images, as we mentioned earlier, are also available in the BHL Flickr. So the links directly to those images in Flickr are in the work list. But if you were in BHL first and you wanted to go to view the image in Flickr instead and download it from there, any image in Flickr is going to have this View Current Page in BHL link. So if you were to click on that, it would take you to that image in the BHL Flickr. And it's really easy to download images from Flickr as well. As soon as it loads, hopefully you'll see that, but there's just a little download button over here in the lower right corner. And you can download, you can choose the different sizes that you want to download in Flickr. Yes, question?
For the Commons, which sizes should we be choosing since if we're going to be re-uploading it?
So the question is for Commons, which size should you choose to upload? Ariel, I assume the highest resolution that's available?
Yes, and when people actually download the images, they can choose either the original file or scale it down as they'd like.
So use original.
Yeah, so original in Flickr, the original size is the largest size that is available. That's the original image that was digitized and uploaded. For any of the images in Flickr, you'll also see the rights statement for that image right there. So you can see it's public domain. So that's useful. I'll also show you where those rights statements are in BHL in just a second. For any image in Flickr, if you're going directly from Flickr from the links, right below the image is all of the bibliographic information. So for the citations that you might need to do for that particular illustration, if you're uploading it to Wiki Commons, the information, title, volume, publication is all right below the image. And then also, if you scroll down to the tags section, you'll see that for all of the images in the work list, there's a tag that says artist name equals. That's the name of the artist of this particular image. So you can use that in your citation as well. To go back to any image in BHL from Flickr, you just click on the BHL link that's directly below the image in Flickr. So those are the two easiest and fastest ways to download images if you want to upload them to Wiki Commons. The other two quick things I wanted to show you how to easily find bibliographic information for your citations. If you're looking at the book in BHL, if you click on the title that you see at the top of the book, that will take you to the bibliographic screen, and that's where you can find title, you can find author information, publication information. For many of the books in BHL, they have DOIs. DOIs are what you're going to want to cite in your Wikipedia edits. You can find the DOI on the bibliographic screen. And then volume information will be found over here if there are multiple volumes. In the same volume information area, that's where you can find the rights statement for any book that you're looking at. So again, this volume is in the public domain. So public domain is what you would be citing in Wikipedia, how you would be uploading those images. If you want to cite a particular page, there was a question about that earlier in BHL. There's this URL for current page right here. That is the permanent link for the page that you are looking at. That is the URL that you're going to want to cite in Wikipedia. So I think those are the most pertinent information for navigating BHL that you'll need for the workshop. Are there any questions about any of that?
There was a question online. Can you search for just BHL images in Flickr?
Yes. So, and thank you. That was a question earlier as well. So if you are in Flickr, if you just go to our BHL homepage in Flickr, flickr.com/, you can just do Biodiv Library. What you'll see is a little magnifying glass right as you're there. So for those who are online, go to flickr.com/Biodiv Library. To the right, just above where the images are, there's a little magnifying glass. If you click on that, that will update the search box in Flickr so that you will only be searching BHL's images. So from there, for instance, if you wanted to find images about one of the women that are in our work list, the direct links are also included in the work list, but that's what you would do. And then you could find all of the illustrations that we have available in the BHL Flickr by that woman. Yes? Not to be able to browse and download the images, you don't have to be logged in. No. If you had an account, you could log in and then you could upload images to your Flickr account or something like that. Any other questions? Okay, so for those who are tuning in online, we're going to keep the broadcast going until 2 p.m. So if you have any questions that come up, you can use the chat. You can also call into our helpline. And again, the call-in information is on the description for the YouTube live broadcast if you want to talk to somebody with a question, and you can use the hashtag #HerNaturalHistoryWiki as well to ask questions. And then for those in the room, I think this is open editing time. Lunch has been delivered. We've put it on tables out here. We're going to open it up and make it available, and then we'll let you know when you can go out and get your lunch. And then we have ordered housekeeping services to come in after the event, so you can bring the food back in here to eat if you want to. Okay, any final questions? All right, thanks everyone. Have fun.
I fixed it on that one. I don't want anything in now. I think I'm gonna jump in that area. Okay. Yeah. It was interesting that was great. Way to interpret. I'm gonna try to do something else there. So could you do random?
Yeah, that would be great. We decided not to do it at the beginning because of the live stream and everything like that. But yeah, I think once we come back in, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So they need to go on the event page. They scroll to coordination. Maybe yes, you're right above the artwork. Yeah.
Okay, people may call them later. I didn't expect they to call in while we were. I never walked in. Okay.
And so, when they're done editing, they just get done, so others are in.
So the red ones.
You're right.
An answer to the deep discussion. Or our answers we try to find. And in the hope that. And that's clear cut for us. And stuff can be illegal.
We don't have a perfect answer for that, but try to model good behavior and use clear copyright.
Excellent. And so that's just my personal philosophy.
So for everyone in the room, the food for lunch is ready and set out on the table just outside the room here. So feel free to help yourself whenever you want to. And like I said, you can bring it back in here because we arrange to have cleaning afterwards. And then once we have a chance to sort of eat and get settled, we're going to do, for those in the room, just quickly going around and introducing ourselves and saying where we're from as a request from somebody who is here. So we'll do that. But for now, feel free to get lunch and
Watch the cords, watch.
Yeah.
Recorded that here.
Hello.
I have a question about trying to download from the Flickr stream to save an image. I'm getting HTML only.
Not much about the collection, but let me see.
Maybe there's someone who does.
Hi.
I know your earring.
I tried to put in my kid.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
So you're trying to download.
This is image.
Yeah, and I'm just getting HTML only.
That's fine.
Well, in other words, it's not save as.
But then we do have some people don't even have instances.
Oh, there was somebody, Erin may have checked with you, but someone earlier broadcast had a question, so we follow up with that afterwards, so let me make sure that.
Yeah. When you're, so you're just gonna upload
Just
it
as a
to
test.
Wikipedia.
Well, this is just a test right now.
Okay. I think if you wanted to download this and use it on a printed
Right. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's tricky with the,
One for just this, so we can actually put all the details on focus as well. BHL.
Did she already ask you about the person who has permission to use the slide?
Oh, no, but they're all in common, they can send color ready with that.
Good, how are you?
I saw your name here. Just my chance to say hello.
Oh, so I know Charlotte pretty well.
Yes, probably from way back.
Yep. Well, she moved to the area 5 years ago, but I know her from Twitter previously and stuff.
Right. I mean, she should meet up.
Yep. Speaking of which, that reminds me, we still haven't sent her. For the meetups.
that'll sort of clear out,
I know she was at the party. Well, you guys are hosting, hopefully in June. But I think the holdup was.
Is there a character limit?
I think the holdup was that we were gonna like do appetizers and cocktails at Tudor and then go over and have more food at Dunbar, like dessert or whatever. And people have the pool option. So I think the holdup was she had proposed some dates and Dunbar is not getting back to her. So I'm like, okay, we just need to decide because there's so much now in June. So how long have you been at Tudor Place?
I left him last year. In June. And I was there 7 years.
Okay. Question for later. I see categories to settle listings, but no
So
plus.
my great great grandmother is Catherine Northley.
No, I don't know Captain Northleaf's name, but.
So you can only add categories if you're not in edit or.
Martha, the original.
The original.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
Whoever the mayor of Georgetown was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Russell.
Yes.
My mother has it all like mapped out. She knows all of it.
So she's descended from one of the.
When you tell them to let them have big stuff.
I have a,
might be another feature.
Friend, I'm a director. How do I bring up the, I guess, contemporary research in the net, Robin.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's great.
I just read Lost Estates of DC. So we're talking.
I mean, the Williams.
Okay. So if they're not in edit
Yeah.
mode, they should see the plus sign.
So that like
I don't know why I do
very
that.
quickly
It's like you
skipped
think
through
editing.
and some of the
Right.
so the names are
Some
familiar,
stuff
but like
doesn't.
we could have written so much more about this, but there, I guess there's
Robert
so much.
Peter was
to
one
cover.
of the original proprietors.
Yeah, so that's
He
what
owns
she
most
talks
of-
about.
most
all
of
of
the
that.
areas I was working on.
Yeah.
If someone would like me to demo anything
Okay.
again, just feel free to grab me. Sandwich. I'm happy to show over anything.
Yeah.
Actually, what is the quickest way to search for conversation?
Right. So you can do that.
Yeah, just to go to your car.
Okay, oh, I know.
Yeah.
So when they
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really, I never started.
Go to twitter.com/.
But that was one of the more fun parts. Job.
Yeah, oh, she's just helping me with.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
We'll chat after lunch. Let's chat.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm the director of the museum at the American.
That's it. I'm sure we can.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet you. I'm Bianca Crowley, I'm the collections manager for BHL.
I worship.
Oh, well, that makes me feel great. I've been busy trying to do some curatorial edits while this is going on, and every time I get, stuck in the rabbit hole with curating, I'm just like, oh.
Oh, I know. It's the research and the images and I know.
For me, it's the metadata errors and,
Oh.
you know,
Yes,
all of
poor
that.
thing.
All of that.
I'm all about
Okay.
And, yeah, and actually I'm, after 11 years.
Yeah.
You know, people study, I'm finally gonna retire. And move into more work with early natural history.
Oh, nice.
So that's.
You can't figure out.
Yes, absolutely. I love those.
Yeah. But I did.
Are you conflicted out of posting about your own institution?
I am. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, like, I wrote a, I did a whole, small online exhibition.
It's just about they were suggesting a future broadcast. Did you already do that?
An amazing naturalist. And we actually are doing a 2021.
If we were to do this again, I think we should probably say.
Trying to.
What do you mean?
And starting very early.
I mean, originally we were to say.
I just spoke to and I found out
She was not. So, and,
Okay.
well, that's gonna go on our website, not on Wikipedia.
What do you do?
So, I
images.
images,
So
so I went to film protection. If somebody wants to
Well,
in some application, I really should go to us for,
Take the link.
long-term free, educational, education, something they want for commercial, we want to be paid.
So I'm not assuming
Yeah.
So you're thinking of, are you thinking of,
I don't know anything about her.
yeah, because my lady is on the law. She's a pretty cool person, there's a long
Materials are
and,
all
you
of
know,
our
I don't know
materials are
whether,
open access to better prices. So I'm just curious about the content.
take more from the I mean, I could find pictures. You think most of it.
I just like to do it. Yeah, well, this one.
All I know is that if the materials are open access. So
And it's very
No, very good.
So I thought, and there's lots of BHL, there's lots of.
That's another.
Yeah, I think it's the in-house, library says, okay, the host, Wikipedia, they declare, then we basically have to declare it public domain. And post it on Wikipedia.
It's either public domain
Or, yeah.
Okay, so we,
Yeah, this is one. Someone has
and that's at 1923, published before that. But almost with all the, literally,
She,
images that we own.
Dawn's,
So I guess they
and
can
she married
say,
Hillary
we'll
Lyles.
use images
Which is funny.
if you want to.
Her grandfather in
Something
1880.
collection of American natural descendants from
No, Catherine.
Are you Chris?
So remarried name
Great,
is
great.
awful.
So.
No, easy. I just have a question. I have my person, mom girl, and she illustrated dogs, and there's no images of dogs, but with the Biodiversity Heritage Library, there are lots of her paintings. Do I have to download it and then upload it to Wikimedia Commons?
Right, so you have to download to your device actually.
Right, okay, so you can't go directly from BHL, you can't put the link into.
No.
Okay.
Right, exactly. But yeah, and I'm not sure who you picked, but there may be reference materials over there also.
There's a link to her obituary.
Oh, good.
pretty detailed obituary. So just maybe
Which is maybe it's all descendants from Robert.
Thank you.
No, she wouldn't have gone, my dad. She wouldn't have gone.
So she's still having trouble. She said she's in read mode. She's tried several pages, but there's no plus.
Okay.
I guess that must mean it's a.
That's that hot cat issue. A little hard to explain on the thing, but let me just see if I remember how to do it.
And actually, we didn't talk to her about this. Let me see if she's on the stream.
Make sure I know how to do it. Yeah, okay. Okay, just
So you're talking about posting some images.
Yes. Okay. This? Yeah. Okay, hopefully you can hear me. This is instructions on how to at least try to troubleshoot why you're not seeing the plus sign at the bottom of the category section. So if you go ahead and click on preferences at the top of the page, it's the same place we picked to turn on the visual editor. But at the very top, you'll see your username, talk, sandbox, and preferences. So just go ahead and click on preferences. So once you've done that, this is my own computer. Once you've clicked on preferences, you'll see a bunch of tabs under preferences. If you click on gadgets, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tabs from the left or 2 or 3 from the right, so gadgets. And if you scroll down to the editing section, about the 4th one down is something called Hot Cat. And it's supposed to allow you to easily add, remove, and change categories on a page. Go ahead and make sure that's turned on. Okay. And then click Save at the bottom. And I can run through this one more time. And then when you have a chance, just go back to the article. You may have to refresh it and then see if that addition symbol appears when you're in read mode. That may solve the issue, and you just let us know if it doesn't. If it doesn't solve the issue, I may have to just find someone else to ask, but hopefully that will work. Again, you need to go to Preferences, Gadgets, scroll down to the editing section, and turn on something called Hot Cat. It's the 4th one down, and then Save. So hopefully that helps. And please let us know in the chat if it doesn't. Thanks.
She said it worked.
Excellent. Why it's like that? Like for some people, it just works, and some Andrew, who's he always says Wikipedia is healthier that we've done too. That's his go-to line. He's also, if you ever want to talk to somebody about how to use wiki data and what you're doing, he's the guy.
Okay. Yeah, there's another event going on in New York City today.
What is Wikidata? I just came across a Wikidata page and that has some information.
An open source database that pulls in articles, photos, collections, and everything. And we're very lucky. Andrew, who is here, it's not really my wheelhouse. I try. I'm not really making any progress. That's just my own personal
So it's pulling
limitations.
it in from
Wikipedia, but also is pulling in like links to collections, authority controls, and things like that. It's really like the next frontier for this whole project. But he is working on some really exciting things. Andrew is here somewhere. That's his stuff there. So I know he's like the foremost expert on Wikipedia. He's like the one that speaks at conferences and everything. So he'll be able to
does it have editors or is it more automated?
It's at editor
editor driven.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
it's legit for me to use it then.
Yeah,
It seems like a good source.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. So I got the image and it says that there are some restrictions on use. It's not open access or in the public domain.
Is it a BHL image?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say
It's not too bad.
And they really sometimes, I send the details, but it depends on if you're.
And so here I am.
Okay, I'm gonna be, when I return, because I was gonna and, because of the test here, how I get there.
Okay, so this could actually.
And a lot of what I'm working on here is energy. Yep. I have an MFA previously.
So in BHL, you can download this for your public.
In the museum.
In Flickr, Darcy is not one of our partners, so we had to upload it with
Continuing
stricter,
to research.
license there, but it's public domain here.
Whatever I
So
do.
you can just download it to Flickr and then just send it to
How
this is.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm gonna go. with
Yep,
all
so
that.
that's who contributed it, and then the link right there, that is the source. So it's not that it.
I know.
It's
a whole new adventure, definitely. Let me give you one. Meryl. Okay.
So this is what I'm working on.
Okay.
This is,
And she has.
I actually am using a lot of BHL imagery on
This wasn't for her.
this was not necessarily, but I work with this with people new. A hundred images on the back. I know. And so I'm
Oh,
working
no,
on-
oh, I didn't know
This
that.
is actually just some graffiti that I took. But this is to envision my career, and then on the back is all my
I'd like to be able to toggle between.
Oh, sure.
So the walls have my husband's actually.
So.
You know, own who you are.
Yeah,
whatever.
oh, good for you. Okay,
And then hit control.
all right, well.
While you're holding that.
Okay.
And it comes at the top today.
Oh, me too, I'm starving. Okay, so
So
now.
the best thing to do, okay, backslash. It right in the backslash. Here. Backslash. Then you want to do bio, data.
And there. Okay. Oh, not that one. Okay.
And what this will do is.
Got it.
Specific.
Okay.
And then hopefully all of our images are not experiencing owls that you had.
Right.
Other images. Look to me like there's something enriched there. I don't know,
Yeah, that was probably because I was going. So it's just.
but this is.
MGR.
717 results from our photos. These
Got
are
it.
all images. Collection, these are all images.
Fabulous. And this looks like it's actually just picking up on the bird and these are technically quotes.
I don't know why it's taking so long. Could be so different people tag these images. Could be up in your face.
I gotcha.
This is just a research term.
Mhm.
It is.
I want to do advanced.
The audio sound, please.
Thank you so much for your teaching. Wait, is there still one?
What?
There was no. That's almost my name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We'll finish this.
My
and then
name's
I'll
Lakshan. See.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's our board president.
You're kidding.
Mhm.
Will you tell him I have a Lakshan?
Sure.
Like they have a Lakshan working?
I know, I can
we're
show you
not-
his
We're not
picture.
connected. There are LOCK
Uh-huh.
Lashans in Rockville.
Uh-huh.
So we're not related to.
Okay.
But there might be in Europe and stuff.
Yeah.
In our
Uh-huh.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
That said, I have been working on 2 other forms improving them.
Okay.
Creating a way to get out of that to the audit page as ones that you're tracking. Does that make sense?
So you worked on them previously. You didn't do any work on them today.
No, I improved some articles that I
Today.
had done in before.
So we actually, as long as you're signed in on that user page, any edits that you made today, just hold it. Yep. There it is. Yep. Oh, Kirill? Yeah. Let him know. Let's see. I don't think there's anything on comments, but let's see.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Yep. That's it.
Like
Mhm. I think there used to be a category for him because somebody used to joke about how he always wore fancy shoes. But yeah. But yeah, I can always give you his email. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ariel, when you have a second, we have probably 2 questions.
Okay.
Why don't you do the Twitter one first?
You stay there. I'll come to you. See it down here.
Ariel, would it be okay if I put the webcam on here so that I don't have to have it?
Sure.
Actually, that's not going to solve anything. Never mind.
All right. I'm ready.
Okay, so question is, I don't have an editing mode drop down. I've had an account for a long time. Not sure if that's why. This was asked.
That Wi-Fi.
I need some clarification. So they're not seeing the. Are they in preferences? There it is.
Okay.
This is not fast, but I'm
Yeah.
sorry for your trouble.
That's okay.
If you just and then you can do whatever size you like.
Not quite sure what they mean. If they're not seeing the editor mode drop down in the preferences menu, or they're not seeing the edit button.
Yeah.
And then the other one was.
So there's one from somebody that they would like to make a gallery instead of having the images in a column on one side. Is that something you could walk them through on the live stream?
I may have to give myself a quick reminder.
Okay, I won't say anything yet.
Yep.
Okay. Oh. Not Michael. Yeah, I was like, Michael.
Hey. All right. Will do.
How late are you here?
And what about adding galleries?
Oh, adding galleries to
Yeah.
articles?
Is there a way? Somebody asked about how to add a gallery. I know how to do it in
visual.
source, but not video.
Oh, you're probably better off doing it in source.
Yeah, I know.
But you can do it in visual by just adding fields
Okay.
and just pasting the image names in there.
How easy? I don't know this person's skill level.
Okay.
Question that came in there.
Yeah, in that sense,
Oh, okay.
it is probably easiest to just do it by the gallery tag in the source editor.
Okay.
No.
They may be the back side of it. If you go to plate 10, it may be that there's just a, yeah, a ghost image from where the page, yeah, was on top of it.
So I recommended doing it in source editor. If the more source code thing, it's one of the easier things to do. I already try to walk it through. Okay, walk them through that.
I can see if they can watch the live stream again. Or, okay.
So I did do some setting to make a hyperlink to the WorldCat record for this here. Yeah, and I did that in source setting.
So that's
Figure that out. Then when I go into the source, I learned all this. When I go into source editor.
So it's this one right here?
No,
Okay.
I want to do that number 4.
My God.
Copper sticks and natural
Yeah.
Let's see if we have pages.
And
You try this?
oh, no, I didn't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I didn't see that was because I was using the ISBN. I love that reference. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did. Okay, so
Right.
yeah, just
Yeah,
here,
you can
and I
edit.
put the page numbers.
Yeah, you can put the edit, and then if you have any other fields, you can try to do that.
Cool.
Go
Okay.
ahead and try that.
Thank you.
If you're not still on the live feed, I can actually just paste some of this. Say, go do it in source editor and then just send them the tag. And I can explain it better on there about how to actually do it in the chat.
It doesn't look like they're responding.
Okay.
So that might be the best option.
All right, maybe I can do it because I'm going to copy it from here.
Yeah, you should be able to just
Okay,
do it yourself. Yeah. Here, I'm gonna just.
All right. Going to the wrong. Let me switch this. Is there a way to respond to people individually? Or?
Yes, so
Okay.
if you just click at and start typing their name.
Oh, certainly.
Oh, it
Still has to download it.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the connection.
It's just yeah, as long as it's just a connection. That's fine. I can do it at home.
Yeah.
I'm going to access.
Thanks. Sure.
Okay, so
Do you guys get a chance to eat?
I'll probably do it from there. It's not giving me access for some reason.
That would probably go in this trash.
just move it. Okay. Yeah, up there.
Okay, all right.
Like this book has a pretty extensive biography of this woman. If you're citing a lot of facts from the same source, how often
It
should you put
is if you just start typing
lines
WIL, it should.
Right, right. Normally, it's at the end of each sentence.
Okay.
If pretty much all you need to do.
Okay.
Or if it's like 2 or 3 sentences together that kind of form kind of a logical block of information,
Okay.
you just put the end of the last sentence.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it does get kind of ridiculous if you have like every sentence of the same citation. Sometimes just, you know, every 2 or 3 sentences or the end of a graph, if it's obvious that it's from that same source.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Mine is getting a little ridiculous with the same citation.
Well, especially if it's kind of run of the mill info. If it's something more controversial, like she was the first person to do this and was a pioneering breakthrough, then you might want to cite every sentence. If she was born in Kansas and, you know, very regular facts that you might want to only do once in a while.
I guess also the little summary block next to the article, it said that it's generated from, is it automatically generated, or is that editable as well?
Hit the edit button. Let's see how it's generated. So if you click on that, then you should be able to edit the individual fields.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Yeah. So you can actually edit these kind of like a form.
Oh, okay, so it's like some info box is like an object inserted into the article.
Right. You can edit the wiki text if you want. It's a little bit cumbersome, but this is an easier way to do it. It's more like filling out a Google form.
Okay.
Once you've created a draft, is there a way to navigate back to it? I've just,
Yes, so once you've published it, if you just type the name as you named it into the search bar, it'll bring you right back to it.
oh, of course.
Another way to always find the things that you've done, draft or otherwise, if you, at the top by your username, you'll see contributions,
Oh, yeah.
and you can click on that and just get right back to anything you've done, including draft.
Oh, okay. I have a draft redirect with a maiden name. Do you want me, should I send it to you, or do you want to?
I draft redirect.
Just while you were showing how to do
Mm-hmm.
redirects, I did one for the maiden name of the sample page that I had open.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that's what
Okay, is it something that you didn't exist and you'd like to,
it didn't
to publish
exist.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead
Yes.
and click on move.
I don't think I have the move option. You had it next to this
Okay.
star, but maybe it's because I'm too new. Would that show up later?
Sometimes, yeah, it might be. Yeah, it could be. I can do what's called auto confirming, which will allow it to show up.
Should I let you?
No, I can do it. Yeah, in one second. Just do me a favor, write down your username. Sure. And then as soon as I'm done with this question, I can go ahead and do that for you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Did you see they wrote back and said they figured it out?
Oh.
They wanted to figure out how to delete an image.
Okay. Sorry.
But multitasking, you must be.
Great.
You're fine, don't worry.
There's a review citation. Didn't think about clicking on that until this.
I have a question.
Okay. One sec. I was having the idea.
Oh,
Yeah. Is it because I could like see it on the screen? So that's just.
One of the red ones,
Okay.
and there are tons of pictures in there for her. So I put them all on the page, or
So
Put a reference to the liquor.
at the very least, you should probably pick maybe one or two images that you like best and definitely put those on the page. Another thing that you could do is create a gallery section on the page if you wanted to include like more images by that woman, but I would suggest maybe start by picking like one or two and uploading those. Then go from there.
Thanks.
What's your name? Oh, Jim. Jim. Okay. That's fun. Oh, okay, well, you're keeping the week there. That means there's a soft carriage return. Yeah, there's two soft carriage. They don't now. Should I hear? You can best those for sure. What it's telling you is you. Or maybe there's a. And these can be pasted sentences together. And put them together without space, then it shows us all. Show up in there. Oh, I just wanted to draw. Transcribe, like, get rid of all the software trends.
I don't even.
It's kind of a suggestion. Part of your outlining, you know, you have sections, how many paragraphs in the section you want, the kind of beginning bar. This one is her whole article. Her whole article. Okay.
How are you doing?
So it's a kind of a style thing, yeah, and there's inside code, and so you're seeing code there, you don't see what you can do.
I see. Still working on this, but I lost that link to the BHL because I had to. Yes, but I'm not having to look at one, so.
No, that's fine, yeah, please put one in here. And then if you scroll down a little bit, it's under each image. It's
Okay, so like that. So this is, I went to the book and it's the plates. It's the book. I don't know what, yeah, what is it?
Well,
Or you could very high too, but yeah.
yeah, the problem is getting people who are going to come in.
Yep.
Sure.
Established articles, not the Wikipedia. There's like a boilerplate. Where does that come from? What I mean is, like, I noticed that the name is usually in bold, and I thought, well, it might be easier rather than trying to format things to just
Right.
copy in some of this stuff, or I thought maybe it already be
Yeah,
done, but-
you can do
so
that.
where does, that just goes in afterwards, or how does that end up being there in the code view?
Oh, you mean in the
This
visual
isn't-
view or
This
the?
isn't, yeah, this is, no, not in the visual view. This is an established article. My article, my draft article is here.
Oh, it's here.
And if I go to, so it's none of that.
Right, so you can just copy all that code and put it
Is
into
that
the
what other
top
people
there.
are doing?
Yeah.
Or- So if it's there, it's because somebody bothered copying it in. It doesn't
Right.
automatically fill from the view page
no.
and it's
No.
not required.
Eventually, we want that to happen, but right now it's all manual.
I used to
So-
be a webmaster, I understand that.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, you can basically just copy that whole template code from the existing entry and put it in there and then customize the fields as you need.
But then you have to delete it.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be easy
And
to
it's,
screw up.
you know, it's not unusual for some folks to accidentally not delete it and then you accidentally import information.
I'm
from
doing it
another.
in a notepad.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but that's perfectly
Thank you.
fine.
So I actually was able to change that permissions. Whenever
Oh.
you're ready to try that again, let me know and we can
Okay.
give it a shot.
Thank you. That's right here. I still don't have the move. Let me.
Okay, you may
find
have
the
to
page.
refresh.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. So it did have to do with the permission.
Yeah, so sometimes if it's a new-ish username, you just need 4 days or 10 edits under your belt.
Right.
But I can turn that.
So I want to take draft out of it.
So what you do, it's for some reason that pop-up menu opens halfway down, but if you scroll up in it, you'll see article at the top.
Oh, and this.
Yeah, just use the bar to scroll up.
Sure.
Mhm.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't know why it opens that way. And then remove in the title next to it, remove the draft right at the top above,
Here.
in the one to the
Oh,
right.
There.
Yeah. No, right
No,
where you clicked article, the drop down menu,
here.
that field. Yeah,
Doesn't
so
say
remove draft and
there.
colon.
It doesn't.
It doesn't say draft colon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And then you can put a reason if you want.
Maiden name redirect.
Sure. Yeah. Really anything. Okay, and then save page,
Sorry.
and then publish or whatever. I'm sorry, I can't see. Generate or whatever that blue
Yeah, this
is.
says move.
Okay, so move succeeded. It's going to give you what the message. It's kind of default. You don't have to worry about that since there was no real content with it.
And then should we go look at it?
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Is that the right one?
Yes.
Okay.
But I was just wondering if I put in.
Yeah, if you try it again.
It's just redirecting.
Yep.
It does, so it doesn't even show up, it just automatically.
Right. It goes right away. Yeah. So
Oh,
it's
'cause
creating a link. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the redirect page never shows.
Right.
Cool, thank you so much.
Sure.
I know, I have that. So you're like in front of me.
Yeah, right, right, right.
Skills up, you know?
Yeah, she's really, yeah, like she just came up with a really great idea, which is, doing a conservation sort of VIP tour of our exhibition to, instead of just talking about the general content, to actually do a conservation tour. This would be for high-end donors who, you know, heard a lot of other versions of tours. Exhibition that's opening out is on mapping the early nation, and we've got our mapping collection out there. And it's so enormous that they're having to go to the conservation center. Their maps are just and but anyway, we had to have to do a fair amount of information on these pieces.
So, yeah, this is what Erin was talking about earlier, when you have to know, this is optional.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you have to know exactly, yeah.
So published means should be.
She's one of the red names.
This is from BHL. I like it. Citation. Well, it's under release rights. Actually, can't you go back? Oh, here, this one. Yes, so here we go.
Well,
Yeah.
so I told her
Oh, it says NC.
well, I had told her because.
Ariel,
there's
you
some
have
weirdness
responded
with
as the
there with some of the
Yeah.
images in public domain in BHL, so I told her to cite it through BHL for us.
Well,
So we have to
the
download.
the software is picking up.
You didn't know we hadn't put the link in there?
This is the link. I uploaded the image. I downloaded it from.
Some of it's just that maybe that's the.
This one I downloaded. This one I downloaded. So it, yeah, so you can't download.
But you can, I don't know why it gave me that.
Well, it's-
So if she's using a copy from BHL
Correct.
and BHL.
It should work. Yes. Although as a new uploader, they're going to be very suspicious. So it's very good.
Are you on there too?
And there's a
Also.
love-hate relationship with Flickr.
I think this Rosa,
Are you doing an example a lot live now?
yeah, I don't know, I should ask her if she missed the beginning.
I think she might.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's alerted
We
now.
may have to start over.
To be honest, I don't know.
If it's a filter, it's.
I don't know with YouTube Live if you can go back to the beginning.
Mhm.
Have that
Right. I mean, I could just send her the link to the PDF again, but
try it again and upload it.
This book.
Seems like a lot of gossip to me.
Yeah, there's some stuff in here too about a lover who was so distraught at her death that he like committed suicide. Like, I don't know if that needs to go into the Wikipedia article.
Right, well, I mean, it just talks about how much women are judged by people and men. There you go. Women are all that.
Okay. So, but this is, but that's what I did, I used a, DHL image. Yeah, so I'm gonna do it again, but, it's the same.
Yeah, I found that one.
There's nothing to do with her.
Is the whole book on her or
No,
not?
no, but I found the history.
It's about women forgotten, women anthropologists like forgotten from history.
You try to fill up with what's being tried about.
She was a contemporary of Margaret Mead.
Let's try that. Okay, now did you put a license on? Did you see that license on this?
We did the one that it said before it's public domain.
And it's not here. Well, let's try.
Oh, wait.
Oh, that's different.
Okay.
Okay, so believe it or not, they are starting to caption all of the photos and comments, and because that's flowing through the database, the purposes for the links and all those. So they have, so go ahead and
Just
go
didn't
ahead
upload.
go ahead and say, okay.
Someone like jumped onto my thing and sniped it for me.
So you can edit it.
No, I edited it, but
Yes,
they
there
like
you go, there it is.
put themselves in it. They weren't editing it. It was weird.
Yes, yes, you can, in fact, you can request it. So there's a button that automatically.
Oh.
Okay, well, if you click on the blue link down there, it'll go to the next. You can also rotate, you know, using your photo. Since you downloaded it, you could have rotated it on your desktop too. Okay, there you go, see, so that's the menu. And you step.
The leaves out.
Oh, when you push your new star.
These, oh,
Yes, I think it's WOLFP.
that's an L.
It has these two-word captures. And you have infinite retries. Okay, good. Now, it's tagged, I think, to rotate it, and you will come along, and it might take an hour or two, but it'll come along.
Thank you.
And there is a crop tool too, if you want to crop.
So,
I typically will rotate and crop before I upload as much as I can.
so then when I go to upload it, when I go to my
I'm
page,
having,
Any clicker problems?
I'm
And then when I
having
upload
trouble getting,
Okay.
how do I
The Wi-Fi?
yep,
No, I just make your page.
I'm editing the
no, I'm
page.
trying to put the biodiversity heritage library on Twitter.
Yes.
On that stool, would you like me to migrate to a seat?
Ah.
Apologize.
No, it's all right. I may go down there in a minute.
Okay.
I'm just I find myself more motivated sometimes if I'm uncomfortable. Yeah, you know, add something to our own website right now.
I think that's not the right address. It's, yeah, so it's photo slash. Now you have to type slash photos slash. Yeah, slash photos slash. There you go. Slash and press that. There you go.
Oh, it says that
Basically, so that you go through. Yeah, that's, as you see, search can be not very friendly.
Well, still not.
Because it doesn't necessarily complete the solution. Okay. It should not be a fire. It's acting like it is.
this one.
Right.
Are you having trouble getting
No.
through the firewall?
No.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, good. I,
Okay. Yes.
There you go.
Okay, okay. But that's
Great, all right,
Yep.
all right, good, thank you very much.
Oh.
But there's someone
I just, yeah, it was, I was on, I am on this, because this,
Yeah. Is that what you have been using?
no, I'm sorry, this,
Yeah, for some reason, this network is acting up on that.
oh.
It's not bringing up the pop-up. You have to accept the terms and conditions to use that network, and for some reason, that's
live on staff.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't say, but, you got it.
Yeah. I wonder if
That's why I rebooted.
Oh, and then it just automatically, right, so you should.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. So we'll
All right,
see public
thank you.
input. Okay, so good. Now, when we download this,
Yeah.
save images.
Yeah,
And then you can save it on your desktop or in your downloaded folder.
Hi, everyone. Just really quickly, we wanted to take an opportunity to go around the room just really quickly and introduce ourselves, say where you're from, and particularly there was a request to learn more about anybody here who's working with an illustrators or content related to illustrators in natural history. So,
I'm Meryl Mason. I'm the director of the American Philosophical Society Museum in Philadelphia. And all of our exhibitions are curated from our collections of over 13 million manuscript pages and a million other things like photographs and fine art. And I wanted to come to this because I wanted to meet other people who are curious about natural history imagery. We have a lot of it, a lot of original and field goes and expeditions. That's who I am, and that's why I'm here.
Hi, I'm Lynn Ferretti. I'm a curator here in the Division of Fishes. Downstairs, this is my 30th year at the Smithsonian. I'm a biologist, natural historian, and I'm here because I get frustrated by Wikipedia content that I think should be corrected. So, hope to be able to do that.
I'm Peter Harnick. I'm retired as an environmentalist with various advocacy groups in town, Environmental Action and Trust for Public Land. I'm also interested in how Wikipedia works and spreads the word, and with the rights and stuff for Wikipedia that ran into some editorial issues. So I appreciate this learning experience.
Hi, I'm Nora Lawson. I am a conservator at Smithsonian Institution Archives, where I work on all sorts of collection material, including some of our scientists here at Natural History, Robert and Sarah. I have a particular interest in women illustrators. What got me into doing Wikimedia, the Wikipedia Commons was actually working on flower paintings by Sarah Gates that had been transferred to Natural History Archives, and nobody really understood where they came from and why they are. I mean, we have them quite up, but I got into it more deeply because I had to treat these objects, and so I was a little obsessed with that. And because it's something that I wrote many years ago, we ended up having a researcher come from the outside and find us and made a connection between Adelia Sarah Gates, flower painter, botanical illustrator, and Sarah Plummer Lemon, who was married to John Gill Lemon, who was an American botanist. We've made that connection now between our Adelia Sarah taught Sarah how to paint. Questions about illustration techniques and things?
My name is Roxanne Zurich. I'm just interested in getting Wikipedia. My name is Margie Gibson. I worked for the Smithsonian for about 25 years, mostly at the National Zoo. So there was plenty of time to become interested in natural history and the role or non-role of women in science. And well, I left the Smithsonian during the Larry Small debacle and went to Germany, and that's where I still live. I come back here for a couple months of the year.
Good luck. Interested in women in science, and I'm interested in editing Wikipedia articles. So that's why I'm Jim Hayes. I'm a retired engineer. I'm a member of Wikimedia DC, so I tend to show up at their events. It's a lot of fun.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bianca Crowley, and I'm the collections manager for the Biodiversity Heritage Library.
Well, I'm Mandy Katz, and I don't have a science connection, but I was actually looking at Biodiversity Heritage Library images as wallpaper for my house. I've always wanted to do Wikipedia for historic house museums, which is the field I used to work in.
I'm Jennifer Lear. I am an upper school biology teacher at Flint Hill School in Oakton, Virginia. Luckily, we're on spring break this week, so I was able to come. And I guess I'm here just being a graduate of a women's college and teaching young ladies. I always like to incorporate as many females and minorities into the history as I can, which is oftentimes difficult to do. So this is really nice.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Neckrish. I work with Nora at the Smithsonian Institution Archives. I manage the blog, and I do some social media and some website stuff. But this is my first Wikipedia editing workshop, and it's a blast.
My name is Abby McDermott. I have to go. I had to pick up my kids, but I'm a librarian. I went to Maryland for my library degree. I currently work as a contractor for a private collector of rare books and manuscripts, but about a decade ago, I worked as a research assistant to Dr. Fitzhugh in the Department of Anthropology here in Natural History for almost 3 years. Personally, really passionate about natural history and librarianship in the sciences. And I've applied to a bunch of jobs here all the time. So just see my name. Great. This was a really great program. I was really glad to have the opportunity to participate.
I'm Amanda Devine. I work here at the Natural History Museum with the Global Genome Initiative. And I work more with like genetics and a lot of taxonomic data. So I use Wikipedia a lot when I'm looking up taxonomic names. And I think it would be nice to know how to add some of the knowledge to those pages.
Hi, how are you? I'm Kay Elizabeth. I am not into history, but I do like women. I'm in space. I'm in aerospace. I'm a student. So I used to work at NASA, and I thought it would be cool to do some editing from the slide standpoint. This one, that's it. And I gotta go too.
Hi, I'm Andrew Lee. I'm with the Wikimedia DC group here. I used to teach with Wikipedia in the classroom a lot, and we used to do events down here at Smithsonian. These days, I do most of my stuff with Wikidata, which we're trying to set up a training in the next few months for folks with Smithsonian and outside Smithsonian for structured data within the Wikimedia universe. So I do a lot of my work now with museums and putting their content onto Wikidata, like the Met Museum in New York or the Cleveland Museum of Art. So yeah, hopefully you can come and learn about Wikidata when we have that training later this year.
You can always sign up for our mailing list on our website. It's wikimediadc.org.
Contact Ariel, she'll let you know.
Thank you, everyone. Back to editing.
She sounds really cool.
How do we search just open It's January 21st. One word. I know. People talking about being Yeah, because I saw it on the TV or on the screen. That had the photo. This is really.
Oh, yeah, I am glad we're here. So that, but, and that's over there. But it's good to be able to like different, even if you have to like cite it. It's good to see different. So I think the one like we don't have public policy and having or when they're like, hey, yes. So yeah. So what they're doing, there it is. The other way, if you don't want to be in picture. And then plus I'm down.
For anyone who needs to leave early, if you just want to tag me, I'd be happy to escort you out because it is a bit of a maze.
Oh, God.
I can do that as well.
And sorry, I didn't mean to like keep stuff on your screen.
No, it's something like I knew that it was either a browser thing or like a pop-up thing, browser thing, and some of the stuff they can do. Then some of this information.
It's like they were going around earlier, like when we were getting started in like screen credentials and stuff, people were having trouble connecting to the internet.
Oh yeah, no, cool. Thanks for helping. I didn't mean to give my points here. I was sort of like, I was in the zone of like, like, oh yeah, nice. But I didn't want to take away from my class.
Yeah.
She's just like she's COVID, and I didn't want to. Oh, I know.
I figured they were
Yeah, but I wanted to check the right to browser and I knew it worked. You think Firefox would work, but I went for it.
Oh, I should wear this. There's a section on that.
Roasting.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, do you need help getting out?
I can help. Great.
Yeah, that's plus I used to work at tech and
So you know how to like write
robots.
So I figured like
how to like
it looks like it's around slide 59 is like the section on creating new articles.
There's a lot of information.
Sorry, I was trying to get it. The slides seem pretty good as far as like
Yes, switch to visualize it. Well, it started when you did that. That was, okay. And then so do you do trainings?
Just in this primarily.
This big box.
We do 40-ish trainings a year. This is I think March and early
Oh,
April.
two of them.
Black History Month and History Month things tend to be clustered. But right now and also in the fall.
Just
it's
left
spread
brackets, so
out.
two left brackets.
Altogether about 40 a year. And there's
I'll join your mailing.
yeah, but we have
Category colon.
our event this Saturday at Library of Congress.
Say
Has,
illustrations. So basically it's the one.
yeah, very, very similar. I like the reference material. So the other one you can go ahead and just get it and use it. And work with them. Have a number of them, University of Maryland coming up, one for theater coming up in April. And I just found out another one was added. We have this collaborative project with the across the board, but I think it's specifically with the suffrage. We're starting to do a lot of suffrage-based events. And the first one for that is so these are all on the website. You just go to wikipediadc.org.
So you're also, you don't have, there's ways to
No,
chat.
it's the house.
Oh, it's your house.
Oh, it was about.
Yeah. It's great, you know, so you look this and I go outside.
Are you? I was gonna ask you that.
But I just met with
It's all related, it's great. So, but at the same time,
it did have multiple images.
have the news on recently.
Again,
Right, telling you what's going on, yeah. Yeah, I haven't done it because I like to be able to like pop and filter the images ahead of time. And do that right, because you just automatically post it up there. I mean, I guess as a new composer, you could do it before it does it.
Well, it was in the next two.
I actually down in work, I think from all kind of images that I used to, but then when I moved into here, the same one was there. So I downloaded it and again, dogs. Especially I've been doing right there for a while. But I should put the info in. It's not necessary.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, should it be cited under the word?
Somebody who was on Instagram who was using Boost before and had auto set up, like something getting the alert.
Well, I did, but nobody else used it, but I'm not sure, I think this one, which just came from, I think it was already there.
Oh.
Oh, it's fine, because I learned how to do it, so it's not all of them lost, have a hard time.
Scratch. So they don't like about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was really excited that
Somebody else already did it.
of all documents that I scheduled out.
Have you been trying
You can put a little note about
Yeah.
I put something to the person. I'm not sure.
But that's
Yeah,
always
look, just
fun.
yeah, I know. Yeah, you can just let them figure it out, so that way it's easier.
I think I might go to
Okay.
show.
So, and then sometimes I don't know tagging. What I think.
Yeah, I just haven't set up to send me an alert.
And I have done that for what's the start of it.
Yeah. I thought about doing it when I first announced the feature, and I just decided I wanted to have, I might play with stuff. But
They call it log out. Change that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Did you work with a particular historic house museum?
Yes, I was the communications director for Tudor Place in Georgetown
Oh,
for
nice.
7 years. And I always wanted to be able to improve their Wikipedia profile, but now I understand I probably can't do that.
How long has it been?
Oh, well, now it's been almost a year, so. But when I was there, I couldn't have, which,
So what I always tell people, especially when working with businesses and nonprofit organizations.
yeah.
One of the things you can do is you can put in your user page, these are my interests, I was a former employee of blah, blah, blah. If you think I have conflict of interest, hi. But in your case, since it's gone for a year, it should be okay. And especially when dealing with nonprofit organizations or historic homes that happen to be nonprofits also and not corporate entities like Google or Coke or something like that. People don't have as much of a problem with it. Because it's, again, just free access, greater goods, all of that. So you should be fine.
Well, I was thinking it would be very cool to do one of these for the Historic House Museum Consortium, because they're all small organizations like that.
I reached out to them a while ago and I haven't heard back, but I know things are busy. Yeah, I'll give you my card. Yeah, that would be great. But that's my background too, I was telling you.
Oh, I wondered if you had like a library background.
Yeah, I was telling Meryl Mitsuperman, she's from the American Philosophical Society in Philly, and I used to work, I was the education director at a historic site in Philly, called a Rittenhouse Town, which is the birthplace of David Rittenhouse, who happens to be the second president of the APF. And right after Ben Franklin, so we used to do that a lot. Yeah, I'll get you a card. Okay. But I would like to do that. I have a soft spot for historic towns.
Yeah.
So whatever I
to.
can do, yeah. Yeah, especially, you know, the lesser known ones, and getting that information on Wikipedia can really help. So I didn't ask my use for events or partners or anything, just let me know. I'm gonna put my cards out. And, we do about 40 events like this every year, and they really run the gamut. All the way from like arts and humanities to science, culture, everything.
Oh, yes. You're finding all the wonderful things. So you found filters. Okay, let's sit down and take a breath.
I'll be out for about 6 weeks starting in late May.
Yeah.
I'll be back in
What's it
commission
like?
soon.
Thank you.
But I'll leave a couple on your table. Okay. Here, in case you want one. Here you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know you said you're at Flint School? Flint Hill. Flint Hill, okay. Is that a K-12?
It is. It's actually a pre-K through 12.
We sometimes get requests for working with high school students. If you have anything you want us to come in and present, let me know.
Okay.
We can always develop something.
Okay. I would love that.
Yeah.
We're switching up our curriculum for the biology requirements. So now there's like 8 electives and I have to take 2 of them. So I will be teaching my own class, not team teaching, which will be nice. So I will keep that in mind. For next year.
Sometimes we were just contacted by the Boy Scout group, Jamboree, about coming there and talking to the participants who are 14 to 18 about thinking critically about Wikipedia and how to edit Wikipedia, which I can't go because of timing, but I'll come up with ideas for worksheets and how we can say, you know, I was picturing like a Grown Up Highlights magazine where it's like you shows 2 articles and say, you know, what's bias, highlight the bias, which one's neutral, that sort of thing. Right. That's kind of what we're going to try to do there. So I'm going to work on trying to develop some of those files.
Yeah, this is really helpful. I mean, I always tell my students, like, Wikipedia is not a source.
And we even say, like, don't cite us.
Go, like, see what, you know, whatever information you're looking at, and go to the reference, go find that, especially if they're, you know, doing like some type of lab report or biology research, you know. That site, Wikipedia. Sorry.
I think one thing that might be helpful to add to these presentations, particularly when it's about women's subject, is like there's a little bit of a fear of putting our stuff out there and getting critiqued by editors who don't know. Like I got a message back that I'd done something wrong, and I immediately went, and then I thought, whoa, chill. But you know, like doing things perfectly is kind of the message that I hold in from way back, and criticism's bad and all of that. So like just to like treat it more as
like a shade of
or just that it kind of comes with the territory. It's not so meaningful.
Right, and
people.
It's funny that you say that because we have a board member named Rosie who's very active. She's one of the founders of Women in Red, that list of all the red articles. She's actually on our board, but she's based out of San Francisco. Her whole message is people way more educated. That's like what she said. But she was involved a lot in the original survey. They came up with that 1 in 10 editor number, 17%. That's bad number.
and they were trying to figure out why, and that was one of the number one reasons why they think that women are not editing.
And it's not, and saying be bold, or like, I don't feel bold, but on the other hand, you say, well, the editing is a collaboration. And so when somebody flags something for you, that's more like reaching out to help something to make it better, so don't take it personally, maybe things like that, and not just be bold, because that's not always easy.
Right, it's really not. But it is funny, they were saying, women don't, what did they say? The people who did the survey, that women don't want to, are trying to avoid conflict, especially on the internet, because of the history of it, or what tends to happen when you call gender and internet conflict. And, they just don't want to get into that. Whenever I edit, my personal thing now is I edit things that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
I don't care.
And do you set yourself a target, like if you're gonna edit X amount, or is that kind of your job, or what?
No, I haven't edited a lot recently, anyway, because we do so many events.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't really. But interestingly enough, the most active editor in the world lives in Springfield, Virginia. Really? His name is Steve Quillen, and there was just a piece about him on CBS Sunday Morning, and or CBS Early Morning, once on every day. And a big article in the Times, I think. He's occasionally poking around these museums and stuff, but he works for the government, and he goes home every night and just like edits.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I ask a tutorial question about the Flickr and the?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, this is an image by the illustrator that I'm doing.
Okay.
I got to this page from the Flickr page.
Okay.
The only information, and I looked separately at the cover page for the work. So she's not listed on the end of the documentation yet. I'm just wondering, like, I want to use this as a reference somehow. So here's the kernel link for the page. I want to say she illustrated for this journal. But like, what is the best link for that?
So you want to say that she illustrated for the journal? Yeah, but not for that particular image.
That is the image that's one of the 4 images that are in the Flickr, that are attributed to her, or that came up when I put her name in Flickr. It's funny because the Flickr page, see, this is search for, that's how I got it. And so, yeah, that's right.
Scroll down,
I
you
go back.
can see some of the
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
So,
Go to the bottom, there's
what's the source for it? Her name's not on the page, her name's not in the book.
Right. Because you can also, I publish,
So
time of year a lot, but for whatever reason you're not editing. Or just check our website, www.wikimediadc.org.
thank you. You're welcome.
Oh, wow, that's fun.
Yeah. So you
Go along forever.
So I did find, I've got a lot of information about her father. They're both book painters and illustrators. He was on this exhibition, but I don't have the page for her. We have for years. You don't have to say that. Oh, there's the actual Gloria got.
We keep getting changes. Yeah, you know, it's Microsoft.
So I know that.
Yeah, maybe another one of these events.
Maybe my commentary.
How about this? Without, so I'll give you what I think
Oh,
is my take on it, and then I can give you the backstory. Is that I think what we've determined through this exercise is that BHL is valid resource. So our Flickr stream there, if it has her name tagged on the image, I think that would be useful enough to sort of demonstrate.
So since
that
you're a
link.
Flickr nut, will this get me to a good link to use for the?
I like that too. I think So what you're trying to do is you're just trying to cite this.
I need a good
source.
link for a citation, so, oh, here we go, this is the tag.
Yeah, I
I'm not
think.
bringing it up.
So this is through email or no, it's on this. is-
What
so
I would
when you
do
go
is
your
I would
watch
link
list,
to this page.
you put your watch list button.
Okay. Or actually, what, I have the page with all four, but this is,
Okay.
doesn't, and it's the search. And
So
it's here.
there it is. So
It's not really funny.
So, yeah, it just says your user page.
There is a page for the book, and there's a page for women illustrating, she doesn't have her own.
Right, and there's no way to aggregate these images through a tag. Can you do a tag search?
Sure, that's what this was.
I wonder
If I
if
put
there's
something in
like,
there, is that not bringing up?
well, it is searching on the tag. I just was wondering if you could. So when you brought up that tag,
It
and
just
it
shows
just
the
had
tag.
the tag
Let's
itself.
see, maybe there is a tag search.
Oh, okay.
And then they'll show up, any changes will show up.
Search in tags.
Oh,
You
okay.
have, there's some filters here, 200 changes through this. Because people are watching thousands of articles.
So, when you wake up in the morning
Yes,
and you turn on Wikipedia,
yes.
what do you go to first?
But it labels everyone, it's not connected.
Do you go to your watch list?
Well, that's okay. I mean, once they got to the image, they would see where it's coming from.
Go over to.
Still, I'm not sure that it's gonna be a very
Because it's a search.
lasting, useful link, and it might not even come up as a search, depending on how people are.
So,
So I'd almost rather go back.
So there's a transcript.
So linking to this specific,
Transcribe.
well, I don't think she's gonna come up because her name is not listed anywhere in the book.
How did you guys identify her as the artist of this?
So that's part of the backstory is that I think some catalogers and different people were doing research and they added tags to Flickr images because that was our only opportunity to provide that metadata. I
Because
don't
then
know
that means there's a lot of good
exactly.
information there somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe I can figure out what article she's
Sure.
referring to.
I don't know exactly where they got that from, but there are, because we're a book collection, there are only certain levels of information that we can provide. So we can provide author information, we can provide sometimes an illustrator if they have illustrated the majority of
Right.
the images in a book. But because we're cataloging the book and not just the illustration, we don't have the opportunity to put her name on that individual illustration. But yeah, so we did that through Flickr. But you bring up a really interesting sort of quandary and how do we prove that it's a source? And I think the best thing you could link to is the image in BHL itself, where the image is Flickr. So if you go just to that one image,
Yeah, so the kernel link for this is here. I have a question.
I'm just curious if you did
No.
to view current page on Flickr. That this at least is a permanent link, and then you could at least see the tag associated with this image when you're here.
Mhm.
For instance, enthusiast compliments her statement, she works with the Smithsonian, and then she's.
No. It's not, it's not.
You know, it's a way of proactively disclosing any potential conflicts you may have, and kind of.
But it's,
The other thing is languages, if you know, and then you have Barnes
This
Where
tag, because,
if people give you, we have
no, because that one have anything.
award, digital awards we give each other. And also if they're languages, so if you have a, you can have a.
It's just gonna show.
You
Yeah.
can have language,
So because this is still
going.
running, that means we need to BHL resources to do.
It is very selective.
So we have to do 10 edits in 4 days? 10 edits and 4 days, yes. But you can publish it. You should be able to publish it.
I don't know
have much. All I found really was from
Unfortunately, I feel like every time I get to somebody's computer, it loads really slowly.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a consequence of all of this.
Is that
too.
enough?
Yeah.
It's been really slow.
Let me just follow the numbers, but I'm pretty sure that all of the tags are associated with their images, and I don't know why they're not loading here, but they should be there.
Number two, you're
But
always
this
want
one,
to leave it as
this
a
is
draft.
biodiversity library, but
And
not
then
her
go back
name.
and add it.
All
But
right,
her,
I guess
but
it's
her
just-
name,
Public
tag
tag
should be
back
associated.
to the
Right.
draft or whatever in the middle of the article.
Oh.
And just add it to it. Or you
See,
can just let it run and do it like this. I've seen ones that are
Father
shorter.
and daughter
If you find
together.
it, putting it out there like that will invite other people.
Really?
It does invite, you know,
Where's the image in BHL? It might be easier to
truth
see.
is, I see your references, right?
Mhm.
You have amazing references. At least three. They're great.
His name is,
I would just go ahead and look
right.
at you.
Okay, but maybe just put all this in one, just instead of two separate.
So what I would do, the only thing I can say.
Because this was part of what was in the class.
Okay.
And I just read.
Oh my gosh, look at you.
Yeah, her father's Christian and she's Elisa Marie, and I think she went by Emma because she's also related.
Putting this all into one paragraph.
So
That's
we
so
always
cool.
need to leave paragraph, even if it's just.
I guess
one
I'm gonna
sentence.
use, I'm
So
gonna use
leaving that
Emily
separate
for
above
this
it.
page.
And then
I think that's
okay,
probably.
I'm just curious how
Yeah.
to stop.
Yeah.
That's something
That's something that makes
Okay.
her like published in XYZ journal.
Yes.
And
Okay.
then like,
Oh, thank goodness.
and then when you're ready to.
I'll use one, I'll use them both.
Sure.
Just go ahead and.
I think,
publish, and then move it to a non-draft.
And
I
I'll
think
make a
they're both-
redirect page. and do
Yeah,
a
they're
read
both
form.
legitimate, but here is where this is the only place that we currently have to add the information at the page level about the illustrator of the page. If it's not already present on the page, but we can't read the OCR that has the illustrator's name, or if we don't have that information as part of the catalog record for books, then it's
Yeah.
really difficult for us to surface
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Well, I guess somebody.
Was it specifically about
Yeah.
those in that, or was it how to upload them or something?
And then, you know, I don't really
I'm
have
curious
a
about scriptures and,
Okay.
and the people looking for a name
Phrase
or
or
something.
something.
Several.
You mean about the journal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Place somewhere else on mine.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing we're not hearing.
She'll be able to help you through this part.
Ariel?
So these are just, it's
Kind of references.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
Well, here's the couple.
Scroll down.
Actually, I think the double down is already in.
Okay.
So I just went to.
And we'll get the next one. Yeah, sorry. So at the end,
For sure.
click select menu.
I think this is great. You've gotten something started.
Yes.
Good for you. Yay.
Okay, it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not your own work.
Yeah, originally, I was in my years, but then I included a couple more basics, like how to just generally start.
So you'll see the answer.
Right.
Should I just give
Jump
the
right into
URL?
specific,
That's an option, yeah.
So you did,
Okay, so this is where I started.
But yeah, you can just take some more
basic
information.
about searching DHL and
Okay.
right before that, then you can look at where I'm at now, but yeah.
Yeah, and I can just read it. So where was this? Let's, I can scroll with, so one for the BHL.
Yeah, Yeah.
There is a thing called.
And so you want to get to this specific book?
Yes.
Or okay. So the search in BHL, there's two ways you can search. So you can search.
So there are info boxes.
And then why do I have the right to publish?
There are info boxes.
Okay. The first one is going to do, so there's two ways you can search in BHL. When you start, it's going to search the full text of every page in BHL.
That's okay.
In this case, you
So
want
for
to
the BHL,
you'll need to find every line that takes
That one's very much covered, so it's all the things.
You would want to do like catalog search. Catalog is kind of just search the title and author information.
I think it was pre-1913.
Okay, great. So, and with quotation marks that, you can just say copyright has expired, pre-1923. You can scroll down and it should do it.
It's kind of an on-ramp.
Should I check it?
It's
Should I-
just back, that would be EA.
I might guess what we based on the image that you're probably not right now.
Open and then
Yep, most of the images will work.
C.
Great. So,
Yes, exactly.
I can override that and even do something else.
It may be the
Oh, okay. You're gonna find it, let me search for it. Anything that has the artist's name. Sure.
We go into
So this
two.
is the title that you're.
Okay.
That's what I
Oh.
So you have to find out. You know, there's four volumes.
But if you wanted to set up somewhere out in
So
the
if you want to
library.
Here, so this is what
Sometimes I just copy the title.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so you know what you're doing? Oh, excellent. Oh, okay, great. Hi, Karen, I'm Bianca. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
I feel I do a lot because
Well, you're welcome to. You're welcome to. Thank you for coming. Can you help getting out of the building?
I do.
I'm just not Bianca and okay. I can help you. Yeah, sure, yeah. Sure, yeah. Let me make sure I get my badge. So,
Okay.
For the edit summary, they created a page that they're supposed to put it, create a page.
feel free to set up and you can always talk over our presentation, okay?
yeah, just put it here.
So now Ariel says she can move she can change your permission, she has your username, so that you can.
Oh,
Yeah, so see, since English is kind of the first and has our.
We've got,
you know, structure to do it's actually just like.
not very much. Yeah, I mean, I know you are, but yeah.
So here's what.
Yes.
I think we may have just left giant little stripes on the
We don't even know.
I also see again.
We don't even know.
Yep. You go to the back of the page, that's on there.
And it's been going since 17. So, a lot of it, literally, it started accumulating in 17. Do you have a library background?
So I have an information background.
That's weird. The University of Maryland is the school.
right.
Library is the high school.
Yeah,
So Drexel has the same.
Yeah.
But then I can come back.
It's been really enjoyable.
Well, I'm glad you finished. I just covered the workshop that I've been a part of.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm gonna get it. I can write this in as 14 minutes, and then if I want to find.
When you get a chance, can
Sure, sure. You're right.
And how do I make that transition?
So when you're done,
You're getting my image, say, you're seeing me.
we got an error message on an upload. There was a.
It's been doing that.
Well, no, it's not. What is it? That big red message.
It must be flagging.
I've never seen.
Okay.
Oh,
Excuse
and
me.
then.
That's
Yes.
weird.
But if you do it the second time, it should work.
The photo
So
screen
go
will
down to the
be-
very bottom.
So is your draft published? Yes.
Okay, retry. Okay, go ahead, say okay. It wants you to click that arrow.
So scroll up a little bit. Okay.
Okay, and now.
Okay, you don't have this.
I see it's grinding.
So I'm gonna go ahead and auto.
Okay, now.
Okay.
And here's one.
I sometimes want to use your name.
Since we've got all these uploads inside the address, you know,
Oh, really?
It
This
could-
is
we could be
still-
vandals for all this. So be careful.
here.
Yeah. Okay, now the other thing is, it didn't have a category, so
would it give
it would be nice to put the illustrator.
So the name of the illustrator is gonna be.
So.
Yeah. This article was already created, so I'm just adding your.
I work for Smithsonian.
I know that the name and the beforehand, the intro paragraph is in bold, or do we do that manually?
Yeah, there's a so if you just in edit mode in visual editor, you select it, and then there's a bold button. If you're in edit source, try to make something bold with 3 apostrophes on each side of it. And save it and make it bold.
Which is categories. And so let's go down below.
Right, so you're gonna see, yeah, here's that's, and if you go a little bit more.
Let's try and add a name.
There, the best thing though is
Go
when
above
are
and.
sitting.
Yeah, so go above and copy your name, so just straight to the name right there.
Yeah.
It was a little scary at first, but it started.
It is it. Once you start, the more you do it, it'll get easier and easier. And there's even though I'm like a trainer, there's so many things that I don't know. I always have to.
It's the only one I have actually.
This is
My mission to find more stuff to put in here.
Like, I always see comma errors and stuff like that, is that?
You can just go in and say yeah. That's there are people out there. Just like all the others do that.
Yeah.
This is a way to organize it.
My stock and trade.
So that's, so, you know, one way of organizing stuff here would be to categorize every single image that you can do, put stuff in the same place and you can find it all. So let's go, click on that, and let's, then we'll add an edit.
What's your username? Sweet.
It'll be, yeah, so let's start editing.
Or ARER.
Okay, now, we're gonna call her an illustrator, so in this big text field, go in there, and then type, left bracket twice.
I have no capitalized and stuff either. That has to be in there.
Okay, and then category, colon. It doesn't matter, you can capitalize it. Okay, colon, and then say illustrator.
It did. That's okay. So I'll just confirm that it basically means that I'm turning off the restrictions that you have as new ed. And then they make me put an expiration date. You don't understand. I used to know I get yelled at for it, but when this expires, here's what you automatically generated anyway. So now.
And now we've added her to the list.
Go ahead and refresh that page, and you should see a more
Click on that, so you get a big long list of
Okay, so
illustrator. And then this category here, now, it's a big long list of all
go right here to the drop down menu. For some reason, again, it opens midway through the menu. You want to scroll up on it.
Okay.
Yes, so now insert the image.
I don't know why this is open. And say,
Let's see if we can search and find.
from drag or something like that.
Okay.
And then save or
Either way,
remove
let's
it through
cancel
page.
this out.
You'll always get a message like this. So
Okay.
when you clean up, because it's a new page and you just started, it should be fine. So if you just click on it, that's how it's going to now. So now it's in main space, so anyone can see it.
Oh.
And I should mention anyone can see a draft article also, but the thing about draft articles is it lets people that go through and try to like flag things as not being right, it lets people know that you're still working on it. And you
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay.
it does fly.
It's perfect timing.
Here, you sit here.
Okay, well, let's cancel that.
I'll sit next to you and show you.
Thank you so much for this today.
It's great meeting you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
All right, so what I did is I put in like background and comments here. Maybe I'll just click on the wrong. So. let's go back and edit.
So let's go back to that section, let's go to edit. And let's try
Do we have to wait for someone to walk us out?
I can walk you out in just a second. Are you in a hurry? Okay.
That's another way to do it.
Yep. And that should, if you're trying to cite
So-
the volume, overall volume, that should be right.
I'm not.
If you're trying to cite page, okay.
I thought, and I copied it from the box that said, here's the link to this page.
It must not have copied.
This.
Yeah. Okay, so we just need to find the page. So by default, the item URL is always going to be to the title page. So let's go to the page that you want.
Oh, I have the one.
So
that says page enter.
Yep, that's the one you want. So if you use that link in your citations, that'll take you directly to
So
the
they
page.
don't all have that.
They do all. They will all have that.
For some reason it didn't.
Yeah,
Because I was
it-
copying out of that box.
It probably didn't copy it, and that's why I said it might be easier just to click it and then make it and then copy it from your browser navigation bar. Because sometimes I've had it happen to me where it doesn't like.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
So this is now looks different, but I should use
It's
that.
the same link now. If you see 322, 322, it's adding this extra information at the end that's navigation information you don't need. So you can delete everything up to the panel.
This
Yep.
Okay. That may
That's
not
what you
show-
want.
But no,
May not show up. You can
Okay,
cut
yeah,
and
that
paste
looks an
that.
awful lot like what got me to the main page. So
And we
now
can take a look at it and,
Yeah,
and then you'll see the one that was in there had item. in it
instead of page.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right.
There you go. There it is, and now publish.
Is there anything specific that you need us to do
Okay.
to start taking down this stuff?
Now, do I need to put like this?
No, because when you click on the image, it'll take you to the image page, yes, it goes the other way.
Okay, good.
You can add references there.
Well, thank you to everyone who joined us on the live stream today. We are at 2 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and end the stream. But the Wikipedia event page that has the suggested article work list, as well as a copy of the slides that were used during the presentations today, will remain live, and you can continue to work on any of the women in that work list, as well as use those slides at any point. If you need any additional help or if you have any additional questions, feel free to use the hashtag #HerNaturalHistoryWiki, and we will continue to follow that for a little while to see if we can help with anything further that you might have. But thanks again to everybody for tuning in and for bearing with us, as it was a little difficult, I know, to follow along with the slides as we were moving through them on the screen. But we hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for helping us to improve information online about women in natural history.